139 An Introduction to God. Mitswah, Instructions. 4. Barak, Blessings. A Promise. We are about to commence the next stage of our voyage of discovery. Our destination will be Yahweh's Torah, teachings. This book of books is foundational and essential to knowing God. According to Yahowah, the Torah is comprised of His testimony and is, therefore, the Word of God. It is in the Torah that Yahowah introduces Himself to humankind. It is here that He wrote His name so that we would know it. The Torah provides the lone witness to the covenant. Without the Torah, this relationship, and God's purpose, would be unknown. Yahowah's instructions are available to us today because of the Torah. Apart from these teachings, God's plan of reconciliation, the way He delineated for us to live eternally with Him, would be unachievable. The Torah contains many of Yahowah's most important prophecies. It even provides instructions on how to evaluate a prophet to determine if he or she is speaking for God. It is only from the perspective provided by the Torah's instructions that God's word can be understood, His name can be known, His covenant can be engaged, His instructions can be followed, His invitations can be answered, and the predictions made by His prophets can be fully comprehended. Therefore, we are going to continue our systematic review of God's word where God, 140 Himself, began, by revealing what Yahowah had to say about His Torah, teachings. God's view of His Torah is not widely held by others, even with Yahowah's prophetic proof that His claims are entirely credible. And yet, disregarding the obvious scientific, historic, and textual accuracy, secular humanists dismiss the Torah as being antiquated, and fabricated. Many claim that its author is parochial, intolerant, and hateful. In particular, the academic Jed hypothesis of the Pentateuch's composition serves to demonstrate how arrogant, and irrational scholars have become. These academics in search of mythical authors ignore Moseh's name entirely in their theory, even though he actually was the only author. Then with their antonym, they get Yahowah's name wrong by using J for Jehovahist. They misrepresent Dabarim with Deuteronomist, and then Cohen with priestly. The only name they get right is E for Elohimist, but it's a title, not a name. Further, in their infinite wisdom, these theologians claim that the Torah was written by these 5 groups of people over 500 years, with the J's and E's scheming together beginning in 922 CE. That being true, then how did David write so eloquently about it after his death? On the other hand, Hasidic Jews are so dissatisfied with the Torah, they have created their own oral law to replace it. Their Talmud and Mishnah misinterpret God's testimony to their liking. The religion of Christianity is shaped largely by Paul's animosity toward the Torah. He dismisses it as being of the flesh, as being opposed to the spirit, as enslaving, as incapable of saving anyone, as a cruel taskmaster, and as being no longer in effect. Paul even takes direct aim at the covenant, replacing it with his own, in addition to its sign which is circumcision. Then he demeans the Shabat, as well as Yahowah's 7 Mikrei, invitations 141 to be called out and meet, labeling them irrelevant and even counterproductive. And while the Quran claims that Allah inspired the Torah, and that His Quran confirms the Torah, Muhammad's recital is not only the antithesis of the Torah, his God was modeled after Satan, the adversary. His caricatures of Adam, Noach, Abraham, Moses, Daud, Shalomo, and Isa, Jesus are so preposterous, and so totally incongruous with their original history, they would only fool a fool. By way of perspective, we have already reviewed a number of Torah passages and have started to lay a reasonable foundation. But it is time we solidify our footing and observe what the author of the Torah had to say about his advice in his own words. As we proceed, your comprehension will be enhanced if you read the bold text first, initially skipping over the Hebrew words and the expanded amplifications found within the parentheses. Then, once you understand the flow and gist of the sentence, go back and ponder the additional insights which have been provided. Second, the Hebrew words transliterated within the parentheses are presented in their most generic forms. They have been stripped of prepositions, conjunctions, and pronoun prefixes and suffixes, plural designations, as well as stem, conjunction and mood identifications. This was done so that you might become more familiar with the most important Hebrew terms, and so that you will be able to look them up for yourself online or in a Hebrew lexicon or dictionary. While I enjoy providing these translations for your convenience, when it comes to the Word of God, you would be wise to verify His testimony so that you come to rely on Him, not me or any other individual. Third, Hebrew verbs define relationships, they affirm the enduring nature of an action, they designate whether or 142 not we should expect ongoing results, they indicate whether a benefit is real or symbolic, they reveal if volition is involved, or if a particular outcome was directed or intended, but they do not designate time. There is no such thing as a past, present, or future tense in Hebrew. So, since there is no direct counterpart in English to communicate many of these concepts including verbal nouns and actionable adjectives, some of the nuances which are being conveyed through the unique nature of Hebrew grammar will have to be presented apart from the bold text. Fourth, the alphabetic roots of many Hebrew words can be vocalized in different ways, ultimately changing each word's meaning. Therefore, we must be careful and consider each of the possible vocalizations and subsequent meanings which fit the context of the discussion. And when these choices become subjective, or when an alternative definition becomes particularly telling, I'll try to provide some background information for clarification, thereby equipping you to make your own decision. Fifth, we will diligently check the Masoretic text against the 1,000-year-older witness of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Rabbis have been guilty of copy-editing the Word of God, and as a result, these translations will often differ materially from those you may have become accustomed to reading. Sixth, I shall endeavor to diminish the use of religious terminology and will select the most appropriate and accurate connotation of each Hebrew term. For example, God's Spirit is Kodesh, set apart, not holy. The closest Hebrew word to holy is choli, which means sickness. And seventh, almost every name and title Yahowah has selected conveys something important. So, each time you read Yisrael, Torah, Moseh, Abraham, or Yahweh, for example, you will find insights relative to their meaning. 143 These things known, we are going to turn to the first of the 56 times that Yahowah deployed the title, Torah, teaching, in the written record of his guidance because, throughout God's word, he usually defines his terms with their first use. This brings us to Bereshith, in the beginning, Genesis 26:5 where Yahowah affirms that he shared his Torah with Abraham. And yet, to appreciate God's definitions and to fully understand what Yahowah has to say, we will have to begin where this discussion began, in the third verse. Yahowah is speaking to Yitzhak, Abraham's son. If you choose of your own volition to dwell as a guest, as a dependent child, if you want to genuinely explore and reside, in the Kal imperative this is genuinely Yitzhak's option to travel throughout and live, in, this land, Ha-Eres Ha-Joth, this specific realm and region, then, I will choose to be, higher, I will actually exist, scribed in the Kal relational stem denoting reality, imperfect conjugation, telling us that Yahowah will continue to be present, and in the cohortative mood, expressing God's strong desire to endure with you, immortal, near, beside, in a relationship with, and in association with you. And indeed, YKY, I will kneel down in love to bless you, Barak, I will diminish and lower myself to greet and favor you, creating a better circumstance through you, and I will enrich you by reconciling the covenant relationship for your benefit, with the Peel imperfect, the subject, Yitzhak, is being engaged and empowered by Yahowah in this manner with unfolding consequences over time. To you, and for you to approach, La Otter, and on behalf of, Wallah, your offspring and the seeds you have sown, Zerah Otter, your seed, posterity, and descendants 144 based upon what you sow, accordingly, I will give, Nathan, I will grant as a gift, bestow and entrust, Kal imperfect, literally and genuinely, consistently and continuously, all of, Shirl, the entirety of, God's, the Almighty's, realms, Ha-Eres, land and territories, and, I will take a stand, I will establish and bring into fruition, confirming, I will stand upright, completely fulfill, accomplish, and validate that which is enduring, in the Hyphil perfect, Yahowah will completely engage Yitzhak such that he becomes like Yahowah, therefore, the solemn promise, Ha-Shabuah, the truthful witness of 7, the binding pledge of the Shabat, and the affirmation of the sworn testimony regarding the contractual agreement between the two parties, which, to show the way to the benefits of the relationship, Asher, providing an upright and elevated state, a joyful attitude, and an encouraged mindset to those walking the correct way along the proper path to a prosperous life, and to make a connection and build an enduring association, I swore, Shaba, I promised and affirmed in a binding oath based upon 7 and the Shabat, 2, La, Abraham, Father who raises and lifts up those who stand up and reach up. Father of the abundantly enriched, merciful Father, or Father of multitudes who are confused and troublesome, your Father, Abota. Bereshith, in the beginning, Genesis 26:3. Here the Eres, land has been defined as El Eres, God's realm. Our Heavenly Father is saying that he wants to live with those who wish to live with him. And, like every loving father, Yahowah is eager to kneel down to greet his children, to love them, to bless them, to lift them up, and to give them everything he has to offer. Furthermore, he is so devoted to our well-being, he is committed to standing up for us, to establishing and validating us. He took this very stand along with his son 145 on Passover, the first of 7 steps to his home, and on the Shabbat of unyeasted bread, made it possible for Daud's soul to pay the penalty for our egregious behavior so that we might be reconciled unto him. This is God's oath of friendship, a promise based upon sevens and the Shabat. It is encapsulated in Abram's new name, Abraham, loving, merciful, and enriching Father. When it comes time for us to delve into the details surrounding Yahweh's covenant, we will come to realize that, like all parents, our Heavenly Father grows through the relationships He develops with His children. It is what makes Him infinite, a condition which requires continual growth. It explains why we exist. It reveals why He endured so much to make this relationship possible. And while this realization is something most people will have a difficult time accepting, God, Himself, affirmed it by writing. And, Wah, I will grow and thrive, Rabah, I will increase, becoming greater, by rearing offspring, continuing to remain, hyphal perfect, with alongside, your offspring, zera'ata, seed, descendants, and extended family, in connection with, corresponding to and suitable for, the highest and most illuminated, Kaukab, speaking of the light emanating from stars in the loftiness, from Kabar, to be multiplied and enriched in abundance, spiritual realm of the heavens, Hashamim, of the abode of God in the seventh dimension. In addition, Wah, I will give, Nathan, I will bestow and deliver, I will grant a gift, I will offer and hand down, Kal perfect, 2, La, to facilitate the approach of, your offspring, Zerata, extended family and descendants, everything, Shurl, associated with, these, godly, realms, eres, regions. So, Wah, through, Ba with and by way of, your descendants, Zerata, your seed, offspring, and 146 extended family, all people and every race, Shurl Goim, each ethnicity and place, on the earth, eres of the realm and land, will be blessed with more favorable circumstances, Barak, will be greeted, lifted up, commended, and adored. Bersith, in the beginning, Genesis 26:4. While this sounds wonderful, a relationship with God is hardly a one-sided affair. While we gain far more than He does, we have to actively engage to benefit. Those who do find that Yahweh's children inherit everything associated with our Heavenly Father and His realm, His eternal energy, everlasting light, unmitigated power, unlimited space, and incomprehensible wealth. The next statement, which connects this favorable fate to observing the Torah, is best understood in association with the previous two. Collectively, they present the reason Yahweh has chosen to exist with us, to bless us, to provide us with access to His realm, and to stand up for us so that we might stand with Him. While Yahweh's covenant provides for all of these things and more, such as facilitating God's growth through the process of favoring us, none of these things are possible unless we respond appropriately. And so, it is by listening to God and observing His mishmarith, requirements, Mitswah, terms and conditions, Shabka, clearly communicated prescriptions and Torah, instructions, that the benefits associated with the Berith, covenant relationship materialize. This is because, Ekeb, this is the reason for and the end result of, it is the cause and consequence of, it is the merit of and reward for trusting the detectable and visible trail of evidence, from Akab, to embed one's heels, leaving footprints which are straightforward and steadfast, unwavering, the basis of Yaakov's name, to show the way to the benefits of the relationship, Asher, to reveal the path to an upright and elevated state, a joyful attitude, 147 and an encouraged mindset. To demonstrate walking the correct way along the proper path to a prosperous life, and to make the connections which lead to building an enduring, close, and beneficial association, Abraham, Father who raises and lifts up those who stand up and reach up, Father of the abundantly enriched, and merciful Father, or Father of multitudes who are confused and troublesome, listened to, Shama, for a period of time he heard. He used his ears and the perception of hearing to completely process audible information so as to totally understand, Kal perfect, literally but not continually, my voice, be Kal the way I speak, the sound of my call, my audible instructions and guidance, related to Kum, to arise, take a stand, and establish and Kara, by way of an invitation and summons and offer to meet and be welcomed, to be called out by reading and reciting, and he visually observed and carefully considered, Shema. He habitually kept his eyes focused upon, literally and continuously closely examining and diligently evaluating, paying attention to the details so that he would understand, thereby protected by caring about, prioritizing, and watching over, Kal imperfect, my requirements and my responsibility, Mishmarith Eni, my verbalized expressions regarding my mission to provide safeguards and my obligation to fulfill them, from martial, vivid and easily remembered proverbs and parables providing wisdom through representation and comparison, and Shema, 2. Observe, my directions and conditions of the contract, Mitswah any, my binding instructions regarding my contractual agreement, and my authorized directions pertaining to the terms of the relationship, my inscribed and clearly communicated prescriptions for living, Chukka any, my engraved and thus written statements which have been chiseled in stone to communicate how one should respond to be cut into the relationship, from Chaka and Cook. To carve out a share and be cut into a relationship, by inscribing a portrayal of 148 the nourishing thoughts behind it, akin to checker, addressing that which can be discovered, explored, probed, and examined to gain information through a determined and comprehensive search to provide comprehension and understanding, and my Towrah, Towrah any, the source from which my teaching, guidance, instruction, and direction flow. Bersith, in the beginning, Genesis 26:5. God spoke of what could be known and understood, and, therefore, mentioned nothing even remotely related to faith. He did not say, nor did he infer, that the benefits of the covenant occurred because Abraham believed him. Galatians 3:7-9, and as such, you can and should trash the book of Galatians and all of the other Pauline epistles along with it. The principal author of the Christian New Testament attempted to bypass the Torah by claiming that Abraham's righteousness was the result of his faith, and that it had nothing to do with his willingness to listen to Yahweh's requirements and responsibilities nor observing the conditions of the covenant, as they are presented in his Torah. In other words, when it comes to participating in the covenant, Yahweh's means to engage in this relationship is the antithesis of Paul's. Considering their relative status, and the credibility of their testimony, who do you suppose is right? And with a question this easy to answer, why are there 2.4 billion Christians and just 1,000 or so covenant members today? And yet, there is another religion destroyed by this statement, Judaism. There is only one Torah. It is not comprised of laws. And it is from Yahweh, not men. With so much at stake, almost every word in Bersith 26:5 has been corrupted in English Bibles to lead the faithful astray. For example, over the millennia, religious advocates have deliberately sought to dupe the 149 unsuspecting by errantly rendering Shammah as a bay, creating the impression that the God of the Old Testament is a fearsome and demanding Lord whose punishments for noncompliance could only be avoided through their intervention and dictates. But no matter how many English translations claim otherwise, Shammah does not mean obey. It means to listen. And if you believe that listening and obeying are the same thing, I suspect that you have never been married, raised children, or managed a business. In actuality, Hebrew does not even have a word for obey because the notion of obedience is counter to Yahweh's nature and plan. This assessment of Abraham's response to Yahweh's voice resonates when we acknowledge that listening is a cerebral concept. Sound waves are processed in the brain, and in the case with an audible voice, the message is interpreted and given meaning. This leads to knowing and understanding what has been conveyed. When God is speaking, we must listen to him and then think about what he has to say if we want to benefit from his guidance and instruction. It does not matter what anyone believes. What matters is what Yahweh actually said. As we shall discover in the family volume of Yada Yahowah and the covenant volume of observations, there is one prerequisite and four mishmarith, requirements to which we must agree if we want to enjoy any of the covenant's blessings and benefits. After initially demonstrating that we are willing to walk away from organized religion and national politics, distancing ourselves from family and societal traditions, we must come to know Yahweh sufficiently to trust and rely upon him. We must then be willing to walk to God along the path which he has provided so that he can perfect us. And we are asked to closely examine, and carefully consider the 150 instructive terms of Yahweh's covenant relationship so that we can respond appropriately. Doing so, of course, requires us to study God's word as it is presented in his Torah, teaching. And finally, as a sign that we are committed to raising our own children within the covenant, we must circumcise our sons. By doing these things, we become perfect in God's eyes, which enables us to live in his presence. There are no exceptions to these requirements stated anywhere else. These rules have not changed. These are God's clearly communicated prescriptions for living. We either accept them as he delineated them, or not. There is no leeway for negotiation. There is no gray area, no wiggle room. And there is no accommodation for feelings or for faith. Of things on God's list we must shema, closely observe and carefully consider to receive the blessings and benefits of his covenant. We find his Mitswah, or terms and conditions which must be met by those wanting to be included in our Heavenly Father's family. And that is why the previous chapters of this introduction to God have been devoted to what Yahweh inscribed on 2 tablets of stone. We all need to know what God actually wrote and, then, understand why he said these things to have any hope of coming to know him sufficiently to trust him. God has stated that he, like any responsible father, has chokka, rules. It's his universe, so he knows us and it better than anyone. Therefore, Yahweh is in the best possible position to issue prescriptions for living. And yet, because he gave us the gift of free will, we don't have to follow any of his rules, that is unless we want to receive the covenant's benefits, eternal life, redemption, and adoption into God's family, empowerment, and enrichment. 151 We turned to this statement because we were interested in learning God's perspective on His Towrah. And not surprisingly, He gave it to us. He said that the covenant's blessings are the result of listening to Him, which is accomplished by observing His Towrah. After all, the Torah is the one and only place where the covenant is explained and where its requirements are delineated. It is the one and only place where Yahweh's terms and conditions, His instructions regarding covenant participation, are presented in their entirety. It is the one place where we find all of God's rules. Therefore, according to God, observing the Torah, closely examining it and carefully considering what it reveals, is the way to receive the covenant's blessings, eternal life as God's children. The first time Torah is written in the Torah, Yahweh made the most important connection in the universe. Our admission into heaven is a result of listening to Yahweh and observing His Torah guidance. It is the means to bless every person of every race on earth. And further, He said that within the Torah we find His requirements as well as His commitment to do as promised, the terms and conditions of His agreement, and His prescriptions for living which cut us into the relationship and allot a share of all that is His to give. This realization is monumental. By listening to Yahweh, we inherit the universe. By closely examining and carefully considering God's mishmarith, Mitswah, and chukka, as they are presented within the Torah, we are afforded the benefits of the relationship. This means that there is nothing to be gained by listening to rabbis. And there is a great deal to lose since their Babylonian Talmud is in conflict with Yah, and takes our attention away from Him. 152 We have nothing to gain, and everything to lose by reading the New Testament. Therein, Yahweh's voice is not heard and His Torah is rebuked. It, like the Talmud, is worse than superfluous, it is counterproductive. As we now know, Hebrew tenses convey timeless truth. They do not constrain the action of verbs to the past, present, or future as is the case in English. Hebrew verbs ascribe relationships, communicate volition, distinguish between possibilities and realities, establish connections with other concepts, and speak of the consistent and enduring nature of certain things, even of their ongoing benefits. The only possible exception to this rule is the imperfect voth consecutive, used here in conjunction with the verb shema, observed. If so, it was scribed in the past tense to reveal that, by observing the Torah, Abraham received the covenant's benefits. And that should have stopped the Christian presses. The moment God said that the reason the covenant's blessings were being provided was because Abraham had observed the Torah, He completely undermined Pauline doctrine, and destroyed Christianity. The argument Paul cleverly deployed against Yahweh's Torah, effectively annulling it among those who believed him, was that, since the Torah did not yet exist during Abraham's life, it could not have been the Torah which made Abraham righteous. He then surmised that, since Abraham's salvation had nothing to do with the Torah, ours shouldn't either. This led Paul to opine that it was Abraham's faith which caused him to be right with God. And if this were the case with Abraham, faith would then save the rest of us. This false premise became known as salvation through faith in the gospel of grace. 153 Paul's theory, however, is inconsistent with Yahweh's testimony. 153 And that means that Paul built his religious edifice on a faulty foundation when he claimed to speak for the God he was contradicting. Abraham listened to and observed Yahweh's Torah, instructions and guidance, which is why he received the benefits of the covenant and was allowed into heaven. As part of his Torah, teaching and direction, Yahweh told Abraham that he would have to walk away from Babylon, from the most religious place on earth, from national politics, family traditions, and societal customs before he could walk with him to the promised land. Affirming this point, through Jeremiah 51-6, Yahweh pleads with his people to come out of Babylon before he returns. And while Babel represents more than just religion, nothing has more in common with Babylon today than the Babylonian Talmud and Christian New Testament, especially Orthodox Judaism, and Roman Catholicism. The title Torah, teaching does not appear in this next passage, but the term is defined therein. In context, we find Yahweh asking Moseh to go with him to Egypt, and to speak for him, so that working together they would be able to liberate the children of Yisra'el. Sadly, however, we find Moseh wavering for a host of reasons, the least of which is, but then, Moshe, one who draws out, said, Amar, shared and conveyed, to, Yahweh, the proper pronunciation of Yahowah based upon his Torah, teaching regarding his higher existence. Please, I respectfully request that you excuse me, sir, I am not, a man, an 154 individual, of words, dabarim, who makes statements or delivers messages, neither, yesterday, var shilshom, nor, the day before min tamol, in the past, nor, yam, from, min, the time, as, you, otter, spoke, dabar. Communicated words, 2, el, your, otter, servant, ebed, associate and co-worker. Indeed, ky, truthfully, my mouth, pay, is harsh and unresponsive, kabad, it is heavy and suffers from inertia, it is a challenge, difficult, and stubborn, and since it is influenced by my liver, it's overly emotional, and, wah, my tongue, lason, my way of speaking, is thick and slow to move, kabad, burdensome and dull. Shemoth, names, Exodus 4:10. As the patron of free will, God isn't in the business of forcing anyone to do anything. But since he is also the source of life and the sponsor of the covenant, the business of communicating what they are about is of the highest priority to him. And for reasons few appreciate, God has chosen to relate to mankind by working through men and women, typically reaching out through the most qualified individual from his perspective. In this case, at this place and time, that was Moses, a descendant of Abraham, who had been raised at the highest levels of Egyptian society. To confront and expose a foe on behalf of God, one has to know God and know his opposition. Moses knew, and had rejected, Pharaoh and his political, religious, economic, and military schemes, which put him halfway home. However, he did not know Yahowah or anything of his covenant and resulting power. Therefore, Yahowah, the proper pronunciation of Yahowah based upon his Torah, teaching regarding his higher existence, said to him, Amar Elhu, answered him by asking him, expressing in words to him, Kalim perfect, who, my, made, Sim, 155 created and put in its place, Kal perfect, the mouth, pay, of the man, Adam, Laha Adam. Or, Ow, if he had preferred, who, my, could have made him, Sim, could have caused him to be, Kal imperfect, mute, Ilam, dumb and unable to speak, or if he had so desired, Ow, deaf, Sheresh, unable to hear, or sighted, Ow pikich, or able to see, capable of being perceptive and open-minded, or blind, Ow, or incapable of being observant, if, halo, not, lo, me, any, Yahowah, the proper pronunciation of Yahowah based upon his Torah, teaching regarding his higher existence. Shemoth, names, Exodus 4:11. When it comes to communicating his word, Yahowah always supplies the words. That is why it is so easy to determine who speaks for God, such as Moses, Daud, and Yasher, and who does not. Here, Yahowah is inferring that Moseh's inability to speak fluidly was not relevant because, as God will affirm in the very next sentence, he would be supplying the words. But before we consider Yahowah's next statement, be cognizant of the situation and the timing. The children of Yisra'el were being oppressed and abused by the Egyptians, one of the most religious and political realms on earth. And God wanted to free them while also providing a historical blueprint for the plan he would use to save the rest of us from political and religious schemes. Moreover, they had been slaves for 82 years, so the time of their testing had reached its limit. To unfurl his plan of salvation on his designated 6+1 equating to 7 schedule, man, created on the sixth day, with God, who is one, becoming the Shabat, the time God settles our debts so that we can settle down with him, over the course of 7,000 years, everything required to free his 156 children would have to be completed on the eve of the upcoming Passover, the 14th day of the new year. So now, this being the case, otter, therefore straight away and henceforth, then as a rational and direct consequence, it is only logical that, you should decide to go, Pollock, you should choose of your own free will to actually start walking, Cal imperative, a literal expression of volition in the second person, because, I, any, myself, will be, higher, I will exist and reside, alongside, near, in association, and in conjunction with, your mouth, otter, your capacity to speak. Moreover, I will guide and teach you, Yara, I will formally lay the foundation and establish with you the source from which direction and instruction flow, pouring out knowledge to you as a teacher to make the truth about having one's thirst quenched and being totally refreshed openly known. I feel perfect. God is promising for a period of time to enable Moses to become an extension of himself with regard to the guidance and teaching. What you should say regarding the way to the benefits of the relationship, Asher Dabar, what should be communicated to reveal the path to an upright and elevated state, conveying the message which leads to a joyful attitude and an encouraged mindset, using words to demonstrate how to walk the correct way along the proper path to a prosperous life, while conveying the insights required to make the connections which lead to building an enduring, close, and beneficial association, Peel imperfect. Is offering to continuously direct Moses, helping him engage in a manner that has ongoing consequences throughout time. Shemoth, names, Exodus 4:12. Once upon a time, I balked at doing radio, concerned that I'd say something that reflected poorly on Yahowah. But then I recognized what God offered to accomplish through Moseh, he makes available to everyone advancing his purpose. Therefore, this assurance from Yah to Moseh 157 applied to me, just as it does to you. Similarly, we are all invited to live in Eden, not just Adam. We are all summoned aboard the ark, not just Noach. We are all called out of Babel and into the promised land, not just Abraham. We can all listen to Yahweh and then share his message, not just Moseh. Every child of the covenant is anointed and royal, not just Daud. The God who designed the human mouth can cause it to sing so long as those he created use the eyes and ears he gave them to see and hear what he has to say. The operative word here, and the reason we turn to this pronouncement, is Yara, meaning the source from which teaching and instruction, guidance and direction flow. It is the verb from which the title Torah is derived. And in the hyphal stem and perfect conjugation, God is telling his chosen representative that he will guide and direct him, teaching him how to become an extension of himself. We know this because, with the hyphal stem, the subject, Yahweh, enables the object, Moseh, to be an extension of himself, equipping Moseh to become the embodiment of Yahweh's Torah, teaching. While we are on this subject, and for those who may have glossed over the amplification of Torah in a previous passage, let's review what the Toh, Tov, and To prefixes add to Yara to turn this revealing verb into the proper title. Replete with the Strong's reference numbers, we learn that To, H8420, speaks of a signature included as part of a written account which leaves an enduring mark regarding the authorship of a document. Therefore, this Yara, H3384, source of instruction and teaching, this place from which direction and guidance flow is in writing, and it is signed by the author, leaving an enduring mark on our world. To also expresses a desire to exempt us from judgment, which is the Torah's purpose. Along these 158 lines, the related Tov, H8421, speaks of providing answers which facilitate our restoration and return to God, enabling us to respond properly to his instructions. Recognizing that the Hebrew characters Thith and Tor were derived from the same letter, we discover that Tob, H2895, describes something which is good, pleasing, joyful, beneficial, favorable, healing, and right. Even better, to be Tob is to be loved, to become acceptable, and to endure. Yahweh affirms this connection, telling us that his Torah is Tob. And this is made possible because both Towrah, H2892, and Towrah, H2893, speak of that which is purifying and cleansing, especially revealing. Tah, H8446, summarizes the essence of the Torah by providing the means to explore, to seek, to find, and to choose Yahweh. To thereby defines the operative aspect of Shema, to diligently observe, to closely examine, and to carefully consider, so as to properly respect and respond. Spelled the same way in the text, Tor, H8447, provides the opportunity to change, to turn around, and to head in a different and more fortuitous direction. A Tor, H8449, is also a dove, a metaphor for Yahweh's set-apart spirit. She facilitates this transformation. Toah, H8429, addresses that which is amazing, wondrous, and extraordinary. Toah, H8427, like To, H8420, is used to designate someone's mark or sign as it is presented on a written record. We find that Todah, H8426, means to celebrate our fellowship and to be thankful for it. Then Tobah, H2896, conveys the idea of becoming moral and correct, and thus Tob, H2898, which is desirable, manifesting that which is beneficial and right. Another variation of Ta, this one designated by Strong's number, H2905, speaks of arranging stepping stones to form a straight path, and of properly positioning 159 them so as to establish a firm foundation. And as Ta, H2906, it signifies the mountain which represents God's power, authority, and kingdom. That is indeed a lot to pack into 4 letters, the 2 consonants and 2 vowels, which comprise Torah. Bringing all of these insights together, when we observe the Torah from the perspective provided by the Hebrew lexicons, we discover that we are witnessing Yahweh's, To, signed, written, and enduring, Torah, way of treating people, Ta, giving us the means to explore, to seek, find, and choose, Yara, the source from which instruction, teaching, guidance, and direction flow, which Tob, provides answers which facilitate our restoration and return, even our response to that which is Tob, good, pleasing, joyful, beneficial, healing, and right, and that which causes us to be loved, to become acceptable, and to endure, Tahara, purifying and cleansing us, Tor, so that we can change our thinking, attitude, and direction. By turning to ancient Hebrew, the original language of revelation, where each alphabetic character was designed to graphically display its meaning, we can learn even more about this Torah. Remembering that Hebrew reads right to left, what we discover is that the first letter was conveyed by a pictographic representation of an upright pole replete with a horizontal support beam, which became the T in the English alphabet. It signified the upright pillar used to support a tent, which was a home in its day and, thus, was symbolic of the tabernacle where God met with his children. Inclusive of the support beam, the original Torah was comprised of the elements of a doorway and is emblematic of Passover, the doorway to life. The name of the character, Tor, is actually a rabbinic corruption of its original designation, To, which conveys its actual meaning within Torah, signature, sign, and a 160 mark of authority. Even today, when the is rotated 45 degrees, it becomes an X, which marks the location of a signature on a document. The second letter in Torah represents a tent peg. It is symbolic of enlarging a home and securing a shelter. As the most repeated letter in the Torah, this conjunction was used to express the addition of something and to make connections between statements. In this way, the Wa conveys the role the Ruach, Spirit, plays in enlarging and securing Yahweh's covenant family, enriching and empowering God's children. Yashaya, Isaiah 54 provides a wonderful affirmation of this, making the same connection between the and the Ruach. It is one of many essential titles and names with A at its heart, such as Eloah, and Yahowah, for example. The third letter of Torah was depicted by a profile schematic of an individual's head. Stripped of the preposition bar, in, a Rosh has the honor of being the first letter of the first word of the Torah, Reshith. It describes new beginnings in time, the first and foremost priority, the best choice, the highest point or designation, the head of a community, its firstborn, of being reborn and renewed. Even today, the letter's original name, Resh, conveys all of these same ideas. More than this, the represents an observant individual, someone willing to examine, listen, and then think so as to acquire the proper perspective. The Torah's third letter, therefore, speaks of the new beginnings which are now possible for observant individuals who use their eyes and ears to assess what Yahweh has to teach us. And for those who prioritize God, those who make the right choice and reach the highest possible place and status, they become firstborn children of the first family. Also interesting, these looking to the left toward the next letter in Torah. In this case that is a Hey, the only 161 letter repeated in Yahweh's name. As a general rule, when a Hebrew character faces or moves toward one of the letters found in Yahweh's name, the connotations are positive. And when one of the 10 directional letters faces away from A, or, the implications are negative. Ruach, Eloah, and even Yahowah are perfect examples, but actually not Torah, because while the is looking toward the, it has its back to the. I suspect that this is because our perspective on the Torah, and how we observe it, determines how it influences our lives. The final character in Torah is the. This letter was originally depicted by drawing a person standing up, looking up, reaching up, and pointing to the heavens. As such, it reveals that God wants us up on our feet, our hand in His, so that we can walk with Him as opposed to bowing down, hands clasped in prayer, before Him. The person who is pointing up and reaching up is paying attention to and attempting to benefit from God above. As a living legacy of this connotation, we find that the Hebrew word hey still means behold, look and see, take notice, and consider what is revealed. For those seeking God, for those reaching up to Him for help, all they need do is reach for His Towrah and grasp what it reveals. Yahweh's Towrah, teaching, instruction, guidance, and direction, written as, thereby conveys each of these linguistic and graphic ideas. Now that we know the purpose of the Torah, recognizing that it is based upon the verb, yara, and now that we have come to perceive its nature through the letters which comprise this extraordinary title, let's return to Yahweh's teaching. In this next statement, we find Moses rejecting God's offer to resolve his inability to speak fluently. It was the lowest ebb of an otherwise brilliant life. 162 So then, Wah, he said, Amar, he conveyed, pleading, Kalim perfect, with your permission, by, recognizing that I'm responding to a superior being's instructions, politely as I can express this after considering what has just been said, while the guidance is appreciated considering the implications, my lord, Edeni, Odeni, my upright pillar, you choose to send out, Shalak, you want to dispatch, Kal imperative, please, Nah, begging and pleading, by hand, Var Yod, you reaching out, Shalak, you actually stretch out. Continuously send out and away, Kal imperfect. Shemoth, names, Exodus 4:13. I struggled trying to translate this. The words are not difficult, but the way that they were spoken does not make much sense. After flailing away at it, I came to realize that it is incomprehensible expressly because Moses refused Yah's help. When we are self-reliant, especially in the company of the most extraordinary communicator in the universe, we tend to say stupid stuff. The stammering seems to validate Moseh's self-assessment. And if so, stuttering was a real problem. I appreciate this validation because it affirms that Yahowah has a penchant for engaging with flawed individuals. Second, an accurate self-assessment, even when that personal evaluation reveals a lack of qualifications and a plethora of inadequacies, tends to make us more reliant. And when we are dependent, we become more effective when working with Yah. Third, the contrast between this man's words, after rejecting Yah's offer to speak through him, and later throughout Dabarim, words when he is Yahowah's foremost spokesperson, is amazing. It is this same contrast that we find between the religions of man and the relationship God intended. 163 and 4th, by having someone who spoke poorly reveal the proper pronunciation of his name, Yahowah destroyed the religious excuse to avoid it. At this point, Moses knows that he is having a discussion with God. But he does not yet know much about him. Until just a few minutes ago, he didn't even know Yahowah's name. So, it is entirely possible, albeit not advisable, for him to have said Adonai, my Lord rather than Edeni, my upright one. That said, this was like saying Sir today. It was a sign of respect, not a name or a title. The Torah would not be revealed to Moses for some time, so there would have been no way of knowing that Yahowah was the father of the covenant. Moreover, the erroneous title was consistent with Moseh's impaired speech and poor judgment. What Moses knew of gods had come from Egypt, where they were contrived, each as impotent as they were imaginary, as fearsome as they were felonious. From the moment Satan inspired the first self-aggrandizing con artist to worship him as divine, religious gods have all been lords. Had Moses known better, his response would have been better. To be fair, there may have been more to this than just being an inadequate linguist. Moses had walked away from Egypt, disgusted by the religious, political, conspiratorial, and military schemes which caused them to oppress and subjugate his people. Just as Abraham had gained a new and better perspective by walking away from Babylon, confounding by commingling, so had Moses by walking away from Miriam, Egypt, religious oppression. He did not want to go back. Yahowah's response is exactly what every religious person ought to expect from him. They have rejected Yahowah's company, his support, his word, his people, and his plan. They have rejected Yahowah's offer and 164 name, and yet they inarticulately plead with him nonetheless. I cannot imagine how irritating it must all sound, especially when compared to what he is offering. Then, therefore, indeed, surely because of this, to reveal a contrast in relation to what just transpired, Yahowah, the proper pronunciation of Yahowah based upon his Torah, teaching regarding his higher existence, was displeased and disappointed, even exasperated. Towrah was unhappy, annoyed and grieved, vexed, deeply concerned, and agitated, even angry and incensed, with at and against Moshe, one who draws out, from Masha, to draw out. So, he said, he stated, Kal imperfect, literally with ongoing implications. What about, halo low, why not, Aharown, one who brings enlightened free will regarding an alternative relationship, clearly desiring the home comprised of love and light which empowers, a compound of to be clear about the home shining brightly, Ahab, to love, to desire the sign and mark, to choose and to prefer between contrasting ideas which serve as a marker of an alternative and conflicting relationship, vigorous ability through empowerment, and light and enlightenment, i.e., informed free will, your brother, otter, the Lowy, one who helps join and unite, inappropriately transliterated Levite, from lower, attending to the process of associating and joining together. I actually know, Yada, because I am genuinely aware of the fact, I am cognizant that quite literally, and I realize that at least temporarily, Kal perfect, for a finite time, that, indeed, KY, by comparison, Hugh, speaks incessantly, making words come alive, dabar. He talks about talking and makes things happen by articulating a great many words. He habitually conveys the 165 most words so he can communicate the ultimate word. Peel infinitive, peel imperfect, the object, which is the word, becomes actionable on an ongoing basis with unfolding implications over time. Shemoth, names, Exodus 4:14. So much for the notion that God loves everyone or even that God is all-loving. Moses was the single most qualified individual on the planet relative to the mission God wanted to accomplish. Yah reached out to him and communicated directly to him, offering him what he is offering us, to properly equip, empower, and accompany us, giving us the opportunity to do something meaningful. And yet, Moses said no. It made God Towrah, displeased and disappointed, even exasperated, exceedingly unhappy and annoyed, grieved and vexed, deeply concerned and agitated, as well as angry and incensed. Forgiving, accommodating, and accepting are not among Cherah's connotations and will not be God's response to man's propensity to reject him in favor of religion. Consider the implications. Yahowah produced a dazzling spectacle, introducing himself by title and by name to Moses on Mount Horeb. He told him that he wanted his assistance in leading his people away from being abused as slaves. He heard God say that he would teach him, guide him, and walk with him every step of the way. Then Yah proved his divinity through symbols and prophecy. But in spite of this, Moses said, "No, Lord. Choose someone else." It made God angry, disappointed, and exasperated. So I ask, how does this differ from Yahowah introducing himself to us by title and name in his Torah, with him asking us to walk away from oppressive human institutions, with him promising to teach, guide, and accompany us, with him proving his divinity with prophecy? So, when the religious reject his offer and refer 166 to him as Lord, wouldn't it be entirely reasonable to expect Yahowah to be annoyed and incensed? While they would grow to have a productive relationship, Yahowah's solution to Moseh's recalcitrance suggests that he was mocking his reluctant liberator, just as he will mock the excuses postured by the Hasidic, Christians, and Muslims. He went from confirming that, as the one who gave humans the capacity to speak, he, himself, would empower Moseh's capacity to communicate to saying, "Your brother can talk for you." Aharown may have been the life of the party, but he was a far cry from God. So, after showing his frustration, exasperated yet undeterred, God came up with a temporary accommodation. He would give Moses time to grow into the relationship. And that is why the perfect conjunction was used in association with Yada, revealing that Aharown would be a stopgap measure. As they embarked upon their mission, Moses would come to know and trust Yah and speak directly for God. Since there is nothing more important to Yahowah than his covenant, and since Aharown, enlightened free will is the only way to engage in a berith, family relationship akin to the covenant, God chose Aharown, the light of free will, to showcase the Yara, source of his directions and instructions through his dabar, many great words. When a Hebrew word is repeated, it amplifies its meaning. So, in this case, dabar tells us that Aharown was capable of speaking the ultimate word, God's word. But it also shows that Yahowah has a sense of humor, as it, tongue-in-cheek, says that Aharown is known to speak many words, the most words, and big words, suggesting that he was known to have the gift of the gab, or be a blabbermouth. Consistent with Yahowah's promise to Moses, God wants us to rely upon his provisions. The tendency to fall 167 back upon our strengths tends to short-circuit the process, making Aharown particularly vulnerable. He was not Yahowah's choice, and he would not be effective for these reasons. This should have been a warning shot for those who choose to associate with politicians and preachers whose speeches are inspiring. Fortunately, Moses would lose his inhibitions, and he and Yahowah became the most effective team in human history. The Yatzah, Exodus from Miriam, the crucibles of human oppression into the promised land by way of the Torah would serve as a tangible expression of the word of God. What was said and done then and there would reverberate throughout time, revealing the actions Yahowah has undergone to facilitate our acceptance of the actionable aspects of his word, of our acceptance of his covenant's conditions and his invitations to meet. There would be many words, but they would all lead to one place, away from the religion and politics of man and to a relationship with Yahowah. Many lexicons acknowledge, albeit without specificity, that there is a connection between Aharown and Or, the Hebrew word for light. While they are somewhat out of order, the three letters comprising Or are present in Aharown. But the initial letters, R/O, are more compelling because they take us directly to Al, and Ohel. Al is clear and shining light, while Ohel is a temporary dwelling place, a tent and home, even the tabernacle, to protect a family. As such, the name suggests that Yahowah's light would temporarily reside within Aharown to clearly reveal the way home. Also interesting, Ahab is love, Awa denotes the desire for the sign and mark, and Aw is to choose, expressing a preference between contrasting ideas and conflicting relationships. Therefore, Aharown would be a conduit for Yahowah's love and to expose his signs, so that we 168 might be able to choose between the contrasting ideas of man and God in recognition that religion is in conflict with the relationship Yahowah is offering. The conclusion of is from On, which speaks of vigorous and abundant life, of empowerment and growth. It serves to affirm the benefits which are afforded to the covenant's children on Shabat, where we are enriched, empowered, and enlightened by the set-apart spirit. Bringing all of these thoughts together, Aharown represents enlightened free will regarding the alternative, which is to live with God in his home, shining brightly as part of his loving family. And besides Wagam, moreover, look, Hine, behold, if you look up and pay attention you'll notice that presently, right here and right now, at this very place and moment as a concession and condition, he, Hu, is coming forth, Yatzah, is being extended and brought forth, arriving and appearing to serve, cal participle, 2, la, approaching and drawing near to, meet you, to greet you, and to call out to you, kara, to call you out, to welcome you, to encounter you, to invite and summon you to become better acquainted, to speak, reading and reciting for you, and to announce and proclaim the message for you, cal infinitive. When, wa, he sees you, ra, he first lays his eyes on you and initially looks at you, cal perfect, wa, he will rejoice, samak, he will be happy, even elated, displaying a joyous attitude, albeit for a limited period of time, cal perfect, taking this to heart, bar lave hu, in his judgment and with regard to his way of thinking. Shemoth, names, Exodus 4:14. This comment had little to do with Aharown, his approach, his attitude, or his thinking. None of that was relevant. Yah wanted Moseh, and everyone else for that 169 matter, to pay attention to the yatzah, impending arrival and means of withdrawal of the kara, invitations to be called out and meet with God. Yahowah was prepared to kara, greet his wayward children, welcoming them back home. And through Moseh, he would provide an eyewitness to document these events so that we would all be able to kara, read and recite how God liberated his family from the religious and political institutions of man. This is what Yahowah wanted us to see, to behold, to barlab, take to heart, understand, and embrace, and thus samak, celebrate. Kara may be the most important verb in Yahowah's lexicon. It serves as the basis of mikra, a title that falls behind only berith, family-oriented covenant relationship, and Torah, teaching and guidance in importance. Kara speaks of Yahowah's invitation to meet, of God calling us out of the world to be with him. The epic events which would soon transpire would leave footprints for us to follow, leading us away from the human institutions of religion, politics, patriotism, and militarism, even the economics and academics which underlie them, so that we are prepared to live with Yahowah in his home. That path was laid out before us nearly 3,500 years ago when Yahowah guided the children of Yisrael out of Miraim through the first 4 Mikra. It all began at the doorway of life on Pesach, Passover, then crossed the welcoming and forgiving threshold of matzah, unyeasted bread, where the stain and stigma of religion and politics were removed. Out of harm's way, and on the next day, the children of Yisrael began to camp out with God on Bikurim as firstborn children. They would receive his Torah teaching 7 sevens thereafter on Shabat, with Yahowah thereby fulfilling his promise to enrich and empower his children. 170 But beyond this enlightening definition, this is the most important choice we are invited to make in our lives. We have been afforded the opportunity to exercise our free will on the very plan Yahowah was now etching in history to free his children from human oppression. It would become known as the Mikra. Just as we have been told that the verb yara, the source from which teaching and instruction, guidance and direction flow, defines the Torah, we have now discovered that the purpose of the Mikra is for God to kara, meet and greet, welcome and encounter, mankind by way of kara, an invitation and summons to be called out. These are times to kara, read and recite the dabar, most important words of Yahowah, so that we might Aharown, become enlightened and choose to kara, become better acquainted with him. And that is grounds to samak, rejoice. Then, you should speak of God to him, dabar el hu, you shall communicate the word of God unto him, peel perfect, with the peel stem, the object, Aharown, is put into a state of action under the influence of the verb, which is to speak, by the subject, who is Moseh, albeit for a limited time based upon the influence of the perfect conjugation. And, you should place, sim, you shall provide and put, cal perfect, accordingly, therefore, these words, dabarim, the statements, in his mouth, bar pei hu, and I, myself, will be present with, I will be and exist alongside, cal imperfect, genuinely and continually, your mouth, pei otter, your physical source of speech, and in association with, his mouth, pei hu, his capacity to communicate. So, I will be the source of teaching and guidance, yara, I will provide instruction and direction. 171 To inform and to guide, hyphil perfect, with the hyphil stem, the subject, Yahowah, causes the object, Moseh and Aharown, to teach in the same manner he instructs, for both of you, otter, regarding what relationally and beneficially, asher, to show the way to the benefits of the relationship, you should choose to act upon and engage in, asar, I would like you and others to do. With them choosing of their own volition to actually act and genuinely engage in accordance with my will, scribed in the cal relational stem, which conveys that this message should be interpreted literally, imperfect conjugation, telling us that this work will be ongoing, continuing to unfold throughout time, and jussive mood, as a third-person volition, with the paragogic non-ending, which is an expression of first-person volition. Shemoth, names, Exodus 4:15. Yahowah had no intention of repeating the conversation he had just endured with his reluctant liberator. It would be up to Moses to explain God's plan to his brother, just as it would be up to Moses to convey Yahweh's Torah guidance to the rest of us. One of the advantages of never changing is that God does not have to update his message. Once stated, his guidance prevails for all time. Moreover, just as Aharown would be guided by the same Yara, instructions that were conveyed to his brother, we are all taught by the same Torah. The purpose of the Torah has been affirmed a second time. It is Yahweh's Yara, source of direction and guidance, the place from which teaching and instruction flow. It presents his Kara, willingness to welcome us, and his desire to meet us, by Kara, calling us out of the oppressive world of religion and politics. Especially important, by using Asar, Yahweh is telling us that his Torah is actionable, that he is 172 guiding the way we engage in this relationship, by directing our response to his instructions. And just as there is one Torah, there is only one response to it that will deliver the desired result. And to find it, we need to follow along in Moseh's footsteps. Asar was conveyed in the paragogic nun, which is akin to the cohortative in that it serves as an expression of first-person volition. It therefore conveys God's will, telling us how he would like us to respond to his Torah. It was also spoken using the jussive mood, which expresses third-person volition. And since this is a conversation between Yahweh, who as the speaker is the first person, and Moses, who as the recipient is the second person, the third person would be the rest of us, all of those who consider God's teaching instructive. We have discovered the basis, the meaning, and the purpose of the title Torah. We now know that it serves as Yahweh's signed and written teaching and instruction, his guidance on how we can become exempt from judgment, his inscribed resource to provide direction which answers our questions on how to find God, and how to be restored and return to him. These things known, we encounter the title Torah again in the 12th chapter of this book of Shemot, Names. This conversation opens with Yahweh providing specific instructions on when and how we are to celebrate the first two of his 7 Mikrei, invitations to be called out and meet God. These celebrations of our liberation, of life and vindication, are called Yahweh's Pesach, which is Passover, and Matzah, which is known as unyeasted bread. 173 The integration of Pesach and Matzah is the focus of the first half of the 12th chapter of Shemot, as Yahweh prepares his children for their exodus from the crucibles of human oppression. And this is because Pesach without Matzah is counterproductive. Passover represents the means to eternal life, which sounds wonderful until you realize that God will not allow any of man's political or religious rubbish to exist in his presence. And eternal life apart from God is spent in Sheol, an inescapable prison akin to a black hole. The solution to this problem is unyeasted bread, where the penalty for our misguided ways, which is separation from God, was endured by Daud's soul, with him ransoming us on the Mikra of Matzah, serving as the welcome mat, or decontamination area, to use a more modern metaphor, of the approach to heaven. Unyeasted bread represents the threshold which we must cross to be cleansed before we can enter God's presence. It is from this perspective that we must ultimately come to view everything which follows. Passover resolves the consequence of religion, which is death, and unyeasted bread resolves the penalty of our rebellion, which is separation from God. They enable firstborn children, where we are born spiritually into Yahweh's family. Therefore, setting the stage for what would transpire during the 3 most important days in human history, the fulfillment of Passover, unyeasted bread, and firstborn children in 33 CE, year 4000 year, God told his children, "You should observe, Shema, you should keep your focus upon, closely examining and carefully considering, this word and statement, Dabar, this message and communication, as a clearly communicated prescription of what you should do to live, cook, as an 174 inscribed thought and engraved recommendation regarding life and being cut into the covenant relationship, and, Wah, as an eternal and restoring witness, ed. 2, La, your children, Beni, forever, Olam." Shemoth, Names, Exodus 12:24. Yahweh's eternal witness and restoring testimony, his teaching and guidance, the very word of God, as a name, Torah. It is filled with clearly communicated prescriptions of what we should do in life to live and to be cut into the relationship. We, as parents, should share this with our children, now and forevermore. With his next statement, Yahweh quickly dispenses with the prevalent Christian notion that Passover is a Jewish holiday. It is for God's children, his family, whether they be naturally born Yahweh or adopted Gaum. And while it is for all of God's children, it is not for those who are alienated from him. And, Wah, Yahweh, the proper pronunciation of the name of Yehovah, our Eloah, God as directed in his Torah, teaching regarding his higher existence and our Shalom, restoration, said, Amar, spoke, Kal imperfect, 2, El, as God 2, Moshe, one who draws out, and, Wah, Aharown, one who brings enlightened free will regarding an alternative relationship, who clearly desires the home comprised of love and light. This is, Joth, such is, the engraved prescription, chukka, the clearly communicated, accepted, and inscribed meaning and portrayal which cuts those who thoughtfully engage into a share of the relationship, of Passover, ha-Pesach, of the passing over, and thus not being subjected to death, from Pesach, to Passover into abundant life by continuing to move in a straightforward fashion while removing all confrontational obstacles and Pisa, providing abundantly more than is necessary. 175 Not every child of a stranger should partake in it, Shirl ben Nekar lower Kalhu, not all sons of a foreigner should eat it or consume it. Shemoth, Names, Exodus 12:43. As we will discover in the next volume of this Introduction to God, Dowd composed his magnum opus on the Torah in Mizmor, Psalm 119. In it, he affirmed that there were 4 essential concepts integrated into the Torah which he encouraged us to observe. Chukka, the engraved prescriptions which are clearly communicated and should be accepted to be cut into the relationship, was one of them. In this case, the chukka is Pesach, the door to life which, when opened, provides access to God, his home, and family. However, as God has stated, Pesach is not for everyone. For most, it is counterproductive. While men and women have long sought to be saved and to live forever, eternal life can be hellish if experienced in the wrong place. It isn't that God doesn't want mankind to benefit from Passover, but, instead, that he doesn't want his creation to be burdened by it. As the doorway to life, the souls of those who participate in Pesach become immortal. If this occurs estranged from God, if they aren't Torah observant, if they don't follow Pesach with matzah en route to Bikurim, and if they do not understand how to capitalize upon what God is offering, then their fate will be to spend an eternity in Sheol with Satan. The reason most Ben Nekar, children of foreigners, are excluded is that the majority will follow in their father's footsteps and remain religious, excluding participation in Pesach and the Berith. It is only when a Nekar becomes Torah observant and accepts the covenant's conditions that he or she is welcome. However, God does not care for those who feign a relationship with him, and he will not tolerate the 176 presence of false gods. For these reasons, the children of those who are mistaken, who do not understand, who are disingenuous in their intentions, and who worship gods by different names, are prohibited from participating in Passover. And should you think that it is unfair to withhold benefits from the children of misguided and estranged parents, Yahowah knows that the overwhelming preponderance of children adopt their father's religious and political proclivities and would, therefore, be doing themselves a disservice to live forever estranged from him. On the positive side, the initial participants who, in addition to the children of Yisrael, are expressly invited to benefit from Passover are Kezaf Mikna, those who genuinely want to be ransomed, so long as they are engaged and working with Yisraelites. And yet, males cannot attend Passover until men and boys are circumcised for reasons which are especially relevant. While most souls simply cease to exist at the conclusion of their mortal lives, there are 2 destinations available to immortal souls, Shamaim and Sheol. Admittance into heaven is granted to covenant members, the sign of which is circumcision. Therefore, an uncircumcised man apart from the covenant who becomes immortal remains eternally detached from God, and that means incarceration in Sheol. However, every, Shirl, individual, Ish, co-worker, Ebed, servant or slave, contributor or associate, who longs, Kezaf, who genuinely wants and desires, to be acquired, Mikna, to be redeemed and become part of the flock, when, you have circumcised him, Mawaleth cut off and removed the foreskin of his male genitalia, then at that time, thereupon, after this point which serves as a condition and logical expression, he may participate in it, a Kalbar he may consume it and be nourished by it. Kal imperfect. Shemoth, Names, Exodus 12:44. 177 Therefore, there are 2 distinct types of individuals in Yahowah's covenant family, the children of Yisrael who are naturally born into the household of Abraham and Sarah and those who are adopted by choice from other ethnicities. The conditions and benefits, however, are the same for both groups. And once included and transformed into spiritual beings, the genetic composition will become irrelevant. We will all be Yahweh, beloved of Yah. The second and third exclusions are forthcoming. In that Yahowah's home is an eternal residence, there will not be any temporary residence. Once we are part of Yahowah's family, we are his children forever. No one passes through heaven who does not intend to stay. And that is why God must put covenant applicants through a rigorous and comprehensive screening process. Those who are given access to God must be free of religion, be unpatriotic, non-political, opposed to militaries, and have discarded all vestiges of false gods along with the fanciful notions of conspiracies. The covenant's children are all reliant on Yahowah, not man. We have enthusiastically attended Yahowah's invitations to be called out and meet. We have capitalized upon God's provisions. Those who enter heaven's door are observant, closely examining and carefully considering the conditions of the covenant. As parents, we have sought to circumcise our sons, and as men, we, ourselves, are circumcised. The third exclusion should strike us as particularly meaningful. Yahowah is rejecting paid clergy. Therefore, those who claim to be serving him, especially those who are paid for their ministry, can kiss heaven goodbye. For a number of reasons, accepting money to broker Yahowah's gift will preclude rabbis, pastors, priests, imams, and monks from heaven. 178 But, Wah, the temporary resident, Toshab, the one who is just passing through and does not intend to stay, the foreigner and complete stranger, and, Wah, the hired worker, Saka, the paid servant or mercenary, may not consume it, lower Kalbar Hu, cannot participate in it, Kal imperfect. Shemoth, names, Exodus 12:45. Yahowah is a proponent of work, and he, himself, engages in it. And there is no injunction against getting paid for one's labor, only for cheating, accepting bribes and such, none of which were mentioned. Therefore, in this context, the Saka, hired worker is either what we would refer to as a migrant farmer who intends to leave after the harvest, or someone seeking compensation in association with Passover like a paid cleric. But since migrant workers were exceedingly uncommon during a time of ubiquitous slavery, and priests were a shekel a dozen, it's the latter who are being excluded from receiving what they are selling. The covenant is a family. Heaven is a home. They represent Yahowah's one and only Baith. Therefore, those who observe Pesach, which serves as the doorway to Yah's home, should celebrate with other family members. In one, Bar Ekad, within a single, solitary, home, Baith, house, family, and household, it shall be consumed, a kal, it should be eaten, Nephil imperfect, the subject, which is the lamb, carries out and receives the action of the verb, which means that the lamb is consumed to provide nourishment with ongoing and unfolding consequences throughout time. You should not take out, lo yatsamin, you should not come out or bring out, hyphil imperfect, of the home and family, har baith, of the house and household, any portion of, min, the flesh, basar, the body whether it be animal or human or the proclamation of the message or news, outside, chums, out in public, out in the open, on 179A road, or in the countryside, to an expansive place, expounding upon it. And the bones, wa etsam, the essential nature and very substance of the being, you shall not break, lo shababahu, you should not fracture or interpret as separated, kal imperfect. Shemoth, names, Exodus 12:46. Yahowah owns the universe, and yet he has only one home. Yahowah is creative, and yet he has only one plan. If you are among the 1 in a million who is permitted inside, do not toss the lamb who made it possible outside. 1,500 years after the Exodus, the Romans developed the practice of breaking their victims' legs. Unable to push up and relieve the stress on the arms, those they were humiliating and torturing would quickly suffocate during their crucifixion. Such would not be the case with Daud. As is the case with the Pesach El, he would bleed to death. And that is the reason behind the final statement. Further, Daud's soul would be crushed on Matzah, but his body would not be broken on Pesach. This serves to resolve the Christian confusion over Jesus' body being broken for the remission of sin. Through Yisrael, Yahowah conveyed his name, nature, Torah, covenant, and invitations to the world. They were the only witnesses to these things and serve as an example of what God will do for those who accept him as well as the consequence of rejecting his offer. The entire, Shirl, all of the community of witnesses, Eda, gathering assembled to provide testimony to memorialize the agreement as assurance that it would be remembered, of Yisrael, individuals who engage and endure with God, will choose to act accordingly regarding this, Asar Ethu, will 180 of their own free will engage likewise, doing this, Kal imperfect Joseph. Shemoth, names, Exodus 12:47. While the Torah is not comprised of laws to be obeyed, it is filled with guidance which is beneficial only when followed. To attend Passover, we must answer Yahowah's invitation. To engage in the covenant, we must accept its instructive conditions. Dealing a fatal blow to Paul's mercurial musings, Yahowah, who just so happens to be the creator of the universe, the architect of life, the author of the Torah, the father of the covenant, and the one who conceived Passover, and saw that it was fulfilled, said, "Indeed, if and when, YKY, so then on the condition and as a marker of emphasis while designating a reliable exception, a person from a different ethnicity, an individual from a different geographical location, in association with you, ethota, as a guest, as an individual who is gathering, congregating, and dwelling together on a sojourn while demonstrating the proper reverence and respect for the future considerations and implications, Kal imperfect, engages in, Asar, acts upon and participates in, Kal perfect, Pesach, Passover, Pesach, sparing and providing immunity while protecting and making invulnerable, from Pesach, continuing to move in a straightforward fashion while removing all confrontational obstacles and Pisa, providing abundantly more than is necessary, to approach, La, according to, Yahowah, an accurate transliteration of the name Yahowah. Our Eloah, God is guided by His Towrah, instructions regarding His higher existence and our Shalom, reconciliation, then to draw near, His every, La Hu Shirl, remembrance, Zakar, memory and public proclamations regarding what is true, or men and boys for the sake of remembering, must be circumcised, choosing to bring prior associations to an end, mobile, must be cut off and removed, taking action 181 with an oath to cease and desist, choosing of his own free will to turn around and go the opposite way. Nephil imperative, with the nephil stem the subject carries out and receives the benefit of the verb's action, which is to cut something away to achieve separation, while the imperative mood expresses a first-person command, intention, or exhortation and serves as a second-person expression of volition. And then at that time, as, thereupon as a logical result and temporal expression, he may approach, draw near, carab, he may step up, come forward, and be present, kal imperfect, and participate in it, while sahu, act upon it and engage in it. And so, he shall exist, higher, then he shall be, kal perfect, similar to, comparable to or the same as, like, consistent with, or in the same manner as, a native-born person, Ezra, one who is naturally born, from Zarak, one who is alert, comes out, rises up, and shines of the land, hires of the realm. But, all of those who, shall, all and everyone who, are uncircumcised, remain stubborn, unacceptable, and unharvestable, shall not eat it, lower kalbahu, shall not ever consume it, be nourished by it, or derive life from it, kal imperfect. Shemoth, names, Exodus 12:48. Circumcision is one of the 5 conditions of the Covenant and Passover was conceived to make the covenant's children immortal. Therefore, since those who have not been circumcised cannot be part of the Berith, Pesach does not apply to them. The uncircumcised are excluded from the covenant and thus precluded from Passover. It isn't complicated. No Passover, no eternal life. No eternal life, no participation in the covenant. No participation in the 182 covenant, no salvation. No salvation, no entry into heaven. No entry into heaven, no drawing near or approaching God. Recognizing that the words support this rendering, I wanted to draw your attention to how it blends the actual and metaphorical implications of circumcision together with Yahowah's intent, then to draw near, his every, La Hu Shirl, remembrance and public proclamation of what is true, Zakar, must be circumcised by choosing to bring prior associations to an end, mobile. This is the first time in a decade of study that we've encountered the imperative mood when it can be interpreted as more than an expression of second-person volition. The subject of the verb mobile is everything the guest has held dear and is third person, and yet God is addressing you and me. Therefore, he is stating that we must be circumcised while choosing to curtail our prior affiliations if we want to participate in Passover. Adult circumcision, like the covenant, is a choice. If an individual does not want to participate in the covenant, they do not need to be circumcised. Even though the 5th and final condition of the covenant asks parents to circumcise their sons on the 8th day, Zakar, unlike Ben, does not mean son. Also be mindful, should you be an uncircumcised man, there is no indication as to how much of the foreskin needs to be cut or who should do the cutting if our parents failed us in this regard. Since the primary meaning of Zakar is remembrance, the most reasonable translation serves to affirm the initial condition of the covenant, which is to disassociate from religion and politics, societal customs and familial traditions, prior to meeting Yahowah or engaging in a relationship with him. We are beginning a new life, becoming part of a new family, and entering a new place, so it is only right that we leave the hindrances 183 behind. This choice is simple, religion or relationship, man or God. I am not native to Yisrael, as I am not a descendant of Yaakov. But it does not matter because Yahowah made it possible for others like me to be grafted into his family tree, and to be rooted in his land. We avail ourselves of this opportunity by participating in Passover and Matzah. They serve as the doorway through which we approach God's presence and his means of perfecting us. As such, this is one of the most inclusive and reassuring passages in the Torah. While we will delve more deeply into Yahowah's instructions regarding circumcision during our comprehensive review of his Berith, covenant in Yada Yahowah and observations, suffice it to say for now that, while circumcision does not in itself save anyone, for a man, there is no access to salvation without it. And that is because circumcision is the sign of the covenant, and only the covenant's children survive. No circumcision, no covenant, no salvation. This is because the lone path to our redemption and adoption into God's home begins with the doorway to life labeled Passover, and it crosses over the threshold of redemption entitled unyeasted bread. A man cannot pass through or over either without first being circumcised. If you are a Christian, and if you have believed Paul's letters to have been inspired, consider this a dire warning. Disassociate from his religion, and discard this false prophet's testimony. There is no mistaking the fact that Paul's animosity toward Yahowah, his covenant, and his Torah, was fueled by his hatred of circumcision. This then brings us to the reason we decided to explore this conversation. Yahowah unambiguously affirmed. 1. Echad, a single, solitary, and explicit, Torah, source of teaching, guidance, 184 instruction, and direction, from Yahweh, to provide an outpouring of educational instructions and directional guidance, shall actually and always exist, higher, was, is and always shall be, kal imperfect on behalf of, la, to enable the approach of and concerning, the native-born person, ha Ezra, one who is naturally born, from Zarak, one who is alert, comes out, rises up, and shines, and, wa, for, la, concerning the drawing near of, the individual from a different ethnicity, the person from a different geographical location, who as a guest considers the implications while gathering together and dwelling, as an individual who is gathering, congregating, and dwelling together on a sojourn, while demonstrating the proper reverence and respect for the future considerations and implications, kal participle, a genuine characterization of the individual as a verbal adjective, within your midst, bar talk atom, with and among you. Shemoth, names, Exodus 12:49. When God speaks, there are consequences of his words we ought not miss. He did not say, this Torah is for Jews only. He said that there was and would only be one Torah and that it was for every ethnicity. In light of this declaration, there is no room for a New Testament, a Talmud, or a religion. And with these words, the absurd notion of an oral Torah is entombed. It is interesting that Echad, only one, and Echad, to go one way or the other, are indistinguishable in the Hebrew text. Our conclusions regarding Yahowah's Torah, therefore, serve as the fulcrum upon which our souls rise up to God or vanish in the dust of the earth. That makes this a good idea. And, all, shirl, of the children, Beni, of Yisrael, individuals who engage and endure with God, acted upon and did, asar, celebrated, actively engaged, and profited, for the benefit of the relationship, Asher, 185 as, Yahowah, had instructed, Zawa, directed and ordained, Moshe, one who draws us out, and, Aharown, enlightened freewill, likewise did the same, Kaasar, celebrated, engaged, and profited similarly. Shemoth, names, Exodus 12:50. The 12th chapter of Shemoth, names concludes with, and then, it happened, higher, it occurred, came to be, and took place, in, this, specific, essential and substantive, etzem, speaking of a skeleton which provides the framework for life and our backbone, Yahowah, God's name transliterated as guided by his Torah, instructions on his higher, existence, came to bring out, Yatzer, he descended to serve, extending himself to lead out and bring forth, to free and deliver, the children of Yisrael, Beni Yisrael, the family members who strive, contend, and struggle with, those who engage, persist, and endure with, those who persevere with, and who are set free and empowered by God. Shemoth, names, Exodus 12:51. The timing of things is as important to Yahowah as is the substance. One day isn't just as good as another. Nothing is chaotic, random, or the result of happenstance. God has a plan for his family, and he came to bring it to fruition on his schedule. Rest assured, there is a lot more to be known and said about Pesach, Passover. Therefore, in the Mikra, Invitations volume of Yada Yahowah, you will find 2 chapters where the prelude to Passover and reasons for it are followed by 3 more devoted expressly to Pesach. Thereafter, 3 additional chapters share the insights we have gleaned from what Yahowah has revealed regarding matzah, unyeasted bread. 186 Every good teacher knows that our memory is aided by repetition, and that is why Yahowah's most essential Torah, guidance, and there is none more vital than Chag Matzah, is consistently reinforced through a variety of predictions, promises, dress rehearsals, instructions, historical enactments, explanations, and fulfillments. Here is one of many such examples. The religious and political oppressors, Miraim, the despots and tyrants within the cauldrons of military and economic subjugation, the authority figures in the place of coercive cruelty where slaves were confined and restricted by political persecution, were intensely resolute, Chazak, were strong-willed and firm, some helpful and others harsh, with the people, hurriedly, Mahar, anxiously and quickly, impulsively and impetuously, formally but fearfully, sending them, La Shalachem. dispatching them out of the region, Minha Eres. For they said, Kyamar, we will all die, Sherlanak New Moth. Shemoth 12:33. So, the people, Ham, brought along, Nasa, their dough, Ethbatsik, their grain mixed with water, before it was yeasted, and there was a return of the grievous sorrow of cruel oppression, Terim Chamesh, in advance of the embittered fungus conceiving the culture of ruthless persecution, having their kneading bowls, Misherethem, their breadboards, from Shah, to remain behind, bound up, Zara, wrapped up and confined, reminiscent of being bound in dire straits, in, Bar, their garments, Simlahem, their clothing, from Semel, resembling idolatrous worship, and upon, Al, their shoulders, Shokemhem, backs, from Shechem, to rise and get an early start on the day. Shemoth, names, Exodus 12:34. The spectre of death will cause most to panic, which is what occurred in Miraim. The people were afraid that they would all be killed by the God who was committed to 187 freeing his children. There was nothing in heaven or on earth that would stop him from obtaining their liberty. Yahweh has confirmed what we have come to recognize. By using Terim Chamesh, we know that before the bread was yeasted was indicative of acting before there was a return of the grievous sorrow and cruel oppression as a result of the embittered fungus permeating the culture of ruthless religion. Chamesh drives to the heart of the issue God has been articulating. Yahweh has nothing against yeast, per se. His issue is with what Chamesh represents through its other connotations, ruthless tyranny and subjugation, cruel behavior which embitters, leading to callous repression, merciless conditions, horrific suffering, and sorrow. Cynical and disillusioned people become defiant and harbor animosity against God, which in turn leads to cognitive dissonance and emotional anguish. When covetous people enter the realm of politics and religion, they tend to become tyrants who prosper by lording over others. This is what Miraim represents, which is why leaving the land of political persecution and religious corruption became analogous with the purpose of unyeasted bread. Similarly revealing, the same three Hebrew consonants can be vocalized chamash, which means to devise an unjust plot or plan which leads to the mistreatment of others, plundering them, destroying their land and possessions, while terrorizing and killing them, without any hint of morality. Miraim, indeed. The roots of the remaining words paint a vivid portrait of what was occurring. Their mishereth, breadboards symbolized not wanting to be Shah, left behind in the realm Simla, clothed in semel, idolatrous religious worship. Having Shochem, shouldered the burden of being 188 enslaved, they would Shechem, arise and get an early start on the day. While they were free and no longer remained Zara, confined and besieged, by incorporating this word so cleverly into the text, Yahweh was making an ominous and yet reassuring prediction. As the time of Jacob's Zara, Israel's troubles approaches, rest assured that there will be another Yatzah, Exodus. It was inadequate on its own merit following 82 years of enslavement, but nonetheless, Yahweh gave the captors the opportunity to make reparations. When, the children, of Yisrael, individuals who engage and endure with God, had engaged, had acted at that time and actually done, expending the energy and effort to profit, perfect, in a manner consistent with, Moshe's, the one who draws out, message, to Bar, they asked, shall, the religious despots and political tyrants, Miraim, men, implements and cooking vessels, Kali, silver, Kesef, objects, Kali, and gold, Zahab, in addition to clothing, Simla. Shemoth, names, Exodus 12:35. When we engage in a manner consistent with His Towrah's guidance, Yahweh will free us from the sting and stain of political persecution and religious oppression. Such is the purpose of Chag Matzah. Beyond being liberated from the wiles of man, we are also enriched by God, given everything we need and desire to live a fulfilling life. These objects were but a token of the riches we will receive. The children of the covenant will be showered with the most wonderful inheritance in the universe as we are adopted into Yah's family. Yahowah, bestowed and granted, Nathan, for the family, Ham, a sense of empathy resulting in a favorable and compassionate disposition 189 Chen, in the sight, Bar-Ain, in the eyes and perceptions, of the religious and political oppressors, Miraim, of the despots and tyrants within the cauldrons of military and economic subjugation, the place of coercive cruelty and slavery, such that they let them have what they requested, Shalhem. Thereby, the political and religious oppressors, Miraim, were spared further anguish, Natsal. Shemoth, names, Exodus 12:36. The Natsal, opportunity for deliverance, now known as the Yatzah, Exodus, is a Nathan, gift granted and bestowed by God. It is born out of his sense of Chen, empathy and mercy for his family. Had the children of Israel continued to act upon the Dabar, message of Moseh by Shema wa Shama, observing and listening to the Torah, teaching of Yahowah, this is the reception they would have enjoyed throughout history. From this moment to the present day, there would have been no wandering around in the wilderness, no inhospitable reception in the promised land, no Philistines or Philistinians, no Assyrian or Babylonian captivity, no Greek or Roman invasions, and resulting subjugation, no diaspora or Holocaust, no anti-Semitic Christian conspiracies or Islamic terrorism. Moreover, had the children of Israel engaged in harmony with the Torah's guidance, the nations which have suffered for having tormented God's people would have been spared that fate. The children, then, of Yisrael, individuals who engage and endure with God, set out, Nasa, picked up and departed, from, men, Ramses, Rameses, Ra is the one who bore him, or the son of the sun, to Sukkoth, temporary dwelling or encampment, from Sukkah and Sakak, to shelter and protect, to pitch a tent and camp out, and to cover, with 190 approximately, Ka, 600,000, Sheshmia Elif, able individuals, Ha-Geber, capable and strong people. While Geber is masculine, it is used to describe adult humans who have the strength to prevail and is not limited to males, on foot, Ragli, besides Labadmin, little children, Tap, infant boys and girls who take quick little steps. Shemoth, names, Exodus 12:37. Sukkoth is the plural of Sukkah, which serves as the name of Yahweh's seventh and final Mikra, the festival which celebrates mankind camping out with God in the Promised Land. This tells us that the pathway to paradise which begins with Passover and unyeasted bread leads to Sukkah, shelters just as Abraham was called out of the political and religious milieu of Babylon before he could walk with God to the Promised Land. The Yisraelites were led out of an equally corrupt realm in which the sun and stars had been considered gods before they were allowed to camp out with Yahowah. As an interesting aside, since Geber can mean men in addition to adept adult individuals, the passage is often rendered as 600,000 men in addition to women and children. However, Geber is a measure of aptitude, not gender. It was used to say that there were approximately 600,000 able individuals with a fighting chance to succeed in this journey. Moreover, Tap means infants, not women and children. It comes from a root which speaks of quick little steps and of those more likely to trip as a result. Accordingly, it would be wrong to conclude that there were 600,000 men, even more women, and twice that many children. And while the scars left by hundreds of thousands of refugees walking across the arid landscape of the Sinai Peninsula are still visible from space, there may be more to the number 6 than simply an assessment of the 191 population. 6 is the number of man, and it represents the unique animal conceived with a conscience on the sixth creative day. And from God's perspective, these were the most important people on the planet. He would validate his formula of 6 plus 1, of man with God equating to a better life through them. Until recently, it was considered implausible that there were 600,000 Yisraelite slaves in Egypt, but now the evidence is ubiquitous and irrefutable. Digs in the Upper Nile region, especially the grave sites unearthed in Avaris, demonstrate that hundreds of thousands of Hebrews were enslaved in this region. Satellite photos of the Sinai not only reveal evidence of an ancient migration, but the footsteps also lead to the beach at Nuweiba on the western shore of the Gulf of Aqaba. It is the only place of sufficient size to accommodate this multitude prior to the crossing. Not only is the mountainous route which leads to this area consistent with the Torah's depiction, but there is also an elevated pathway closer to the surface of the Gulf of Aqaba at this location. It is also replete with remnants of Egyptian chariot wheels encrusted in coral beneath the waves. This gradual grade across the northeastern arm of the Red Sea is suitable for a massive population to cross into Arabia. Moreover, large stone columns, approximately 15 feet tall and 4 feet in diameter based on the pictures, were erected on the eastern and western shores in this location by Solomon, thanking Yahowah for the role he played in freeing his people. They baked, wa'afa, the dough, ethar-batsik, which Asher, they had brought out, yatsah, of, min, the crucibles of oppression, miraim, as flat loaves, yuga, of unyeasted bread, matzah, without the fungus of yeast, thereby uncontentious, symbolic of removing the fungus of religion, from matzats, to drain out and remove, because, there was no yeast added, lo chametz, 192 their loaves were not embittered or oppressed, they were not wrongly treated, as, they had been expelled, gerish, from, min, miraim. Political and religious persecution, miraim, and they would not have prevailed, lo yakol, if they had delayed, having vacillated and dithered, la maha. Moreover, wagam, they had not done anything to prepare, lo asar, food or provisions, cedar, for themselves, la hem. Shemoth 12:39. And then, it came to pass, higher, at, min, the completion, kays, the finish limit, duration, and end of 30 years, Shalashim Shana, and 400 years, Wa Arba Mia Shana, in, Bar, during, this one very substantial, essential, and foundational, Etzam Ha Yam Haze, day, Yam, it came to be, higher, that everyone, Shirl, who was part of the vast assemblage of individuals following their leader, Zaba, Yahowah, Yahowah, came out and were withdrawn, Yatsa, from, Min, the realm, Eres, of religious and political persecution and tyranny, Miraim. Shemoth, names, Exodus 12:41. Over the course of 430 years, there are 157,058 days, and yet there was only one which could be considered etzem, essential. What does this tell us about Yahweh's sense of punctuality, of his reliability, and of his adherence to a predetermined schedule? If he fulfilled his plan on this day, shouldn't we expect that he will do the same upon his return? Why then is it so difficult for the preponderance of people to ascertain that this will occur on Yom Kippurim, the day of reconciliations in year 6000 year? This is the second time Yahowah has used etzem in association with the Mikra of Matzah. As we discovered in our review of Shemoth, Exodus 12:17, etzem denotes the essential nature of a living organism, its skeleton, and the foundation of life and limb. It also conveys the idea of 193 becoming vast and powerful. Our ability to stand with God and endure forever with Him is predicated upon our response to what He did for us on this day. Etzem lies at the heart of how we were constructed as well as how God facilitated our ability to stand with and relate to Him. These passages confirm that even over the course of 4 centuries, Yahweh's sense of timing was directed toward a singular moment, the most essential and substantial day in human history. No, not this day, the 15th of Abib 1448 BCE, but this same day in 33 CE when Chag Matzah was fulfilled. The Mikra would provide the framework from which the redemption of mankind would be fleshed out. Yes, Passover is vitally important. It is where those who rely upon Yahowah to open the door to life become immortal. But that alone is not sufficient. Our rebellious nature needs to be purged, and the penalty we have earned for our crimes against God and our fellow man needs to be paid. That is the purpose of unyeasted bread. Our souls, scrubbed and cleansed of Miraim, are removed from the crucible of Sheol, hell, from eternal separation from God. We are ransomed on this day because, on it, Daud's soul endured Sheol to redeem his covenant children. He became our provision. He paid our penalty. He removed the culture of religious and cultural fungus so that we would be free to answer his summons and serve, to walk with him and stand with him. What follows is fascinating. Yahowah uses night rather than day to describe the ordeal that is foreshadowed by the invitation to be called out and meat of unyeasted bread. This is because Daud's suffering on our behalf intensified at sunset, at the dawn of the Shabat of Matzah, as his soul entered Sheol. It would be the longest of nights, the time Daud's soul descended into the lightless realm of a crucible akin to a black hole in our stead to save us from having to go there ourselves. 194 God seems to be predicting that He, Himself, will be vigilant, saving us, during the evening of unyeasted bread. And because we are the beneficiaries, to capitalize, we need to acknowledge what He has done in the darkness so that we might bask in His light. It is, Q, a night, Lael, a time of darkness and shadow devoid of light, from Lul, to fold back, to be alert while holding an evening vigil, Shimrim, for an evening watch to be on guard through the darkness with the expectation of salvation, from Shema, to be observant, closely examining and carefully considering that which protects and saves lives, to approach, La, to draw near, Yahowah, Yahowah, a transliteration of, our Eloah, God has directed in His Towrah, teaching regarding His higher existence. And for them to come out, La Yatsahem, to go out with them, bringing them out, Hyphil, within the confines of the relationship, God is facilitating their departure and, in the process, making them more like Him. Infinitive, intensifies the action as a verbal noun. And construct, making this act possessive of them, from the land, Mineres of Miraim, the crucibles of political and religious oppression, Miraim, the cauldrons of cruel persecution where the people were confined and restricted by military and economic institutions, plural of Matzah, to be delineated as a foe and besieged during a time of testing and tribulation, from Ch, to be bound and confined by an adversary, assaulted and shut up in the likes of a concentration camp, by those showing great hostility. It is the night, Hula Lail Hazeh. This is the period away from the light, to be vigilant, closely examining and carefully considering, Shimrim, to be resolutely focused and observant, an evening to watch and be on guard through the darkness with the expectation of salvation, from Shema, to be observant, contemplating that which protects and saves lives, the means to approach, La, 195 drawing near, being concerned about, and regarding moving toward, Yahowah, Yahowah, the proper pronunciation of Yahowah. Our Eloah, God as directed in His Towrah, teaching regarding His higher existence and our Shalom, restoration, for, la, on behalf of, all, shirl, the children, ben, of Yisra'el, Yisrael, individuals who engage and endure with God, throughout their generations, la dawahem, regarding their offspring, for their households, within their dwelling places, and for all time. Shemoth, names, Exodus 12:42. It is what transpired during the darkness of the Mikra of Matzah that we are being encouraged to observe, closely examining and carefully considering, what Yahowah did for us this night so that we can approach him at first light the following day. This remarkably insightful statement further reveals that there are two essential aspects of Chag Matzah, which is why it is comprised of two Mikra. During the day, Yahowah had also la Yatzahem, made it possible for his people to leave man's miraim, oppressive political and religious influence. Once God removes his chosen from the ongoing stigma and stain of the culture of man, then he perfects our souls by eliminating the darkness associated with the human approach. This is why he is asking us to be vigilant this night, alert and observant, so that we are ready to approach him when it is over. To this end, Yatzah, God's preferred terminology for the Exodus, was written in the infinitive as an intensified and actionable noun. More telling still, it was scribed using the hyphal stem, revealing that it is Yahowah who enables our departure through our relationship with him. As this name implies, Miraim was a crucible of religious and political persecution and economic and 196 military subjugation. It was like every other civilization where the only person who was free to do as he pleased was the dictator, whether the tyrant was called Pharaoh, King, Khan, Tsar, Caesar, General, or Lord. The requisite caste systems assured that everyone else would be controlled, manipulated, deceived, and used by the potentate who claimed his god had bequeathed him such rights. And to assure compliance, unrelenting toil and torture were the lot of ordinary individuals. Moreover, the tyrant was afforded the right to torment his detractors through his affinity with the religious establishment because the priests were psychopaths, ever ready and always willing to afflict the non-compliant. Miraim was the state of affairs for every civilization throughout the world. They were all characterized by the most ruthless individual rising to power, then claiming his god's authority through the integration of government and religion. The imposition of a repressive caste system followed, with Miraim becoming the way of man. This abuse of power prevailed in imperial Rome and under Roman Catholicism with the imposition of feudalism. It exists today in India and communist China. It is God's desire to free us from mankind's religious and political, economic and military, conspiratorial and cultural schemes. He did so on the 15th of Abib in 1447 BCE and again on the 15th day of Abib in 33 CE. His offer is valid today, especially as we approach the time of Yaakov's troubles and his Yom Kippurim return. What you and I do with this realization determines the fate of our souls. The night of unyeasted bread has been presented as a called out and special Shabat, the 15th of Abib each year. During this day and night, Daud's soul went to the place of separation and darkness to remove the culture of East from our souls, so that we could live forever with Yahowah. It was the darkest and yet brightest time in all creation. 197 bringing this all together for us. Then, Moseh said, Wa Moshe Omar, to the people, El-Ha-Am, to the family and kin, remember, Zakar, be mindful of and never forget, memorialize and consistently mention, this specific day, Eth Ha-Yam Ha-Zeh, which, to reveal the way to get the most enjoyment out of life, Asher, which to show the way to receive the benefits of the relationship, you were brought out, Yatzah, you were withdrawn, emancipated, from, Min, out of, the realm of, Erez, the land and nation of. Included in the Dead Sea Scrolls but omitted from the Masoretic text, the crucibles of political and religious oppression, Miraim, the cauldrons of military, economic, conspiratorial, societal, and governmental persecution and subjugation, plural of Matzor, to be considered an inferior and besieged during a time of testing and tribulation, from to be bound and confined by an adversary, assaulted, shut up, and enclosed as if in a concentration camp, by those showing great hostility. Away from, Min, the house, Vaith, home and lineage, of slavery, Ebed, of bondage, of being owned, controlled, and compelled. For indeed, ky, rather, emphasizing through contrast, with, var, in, a strong and forceful, chozik, overpowering and uncompromising, from chazak, strengthening and empowering, courageous and prevailing, resolute and firm, hand, yod, influence and control, Yahowah, Yahowah, the proper pronunciation of Yahowah, our Eloah, God as directed in His Towrah, teaching regarding His Hayeh, existence and our Shalom, restoration, descended to serve you, bringing you out and withdrawing you, Yatzeh Ethatom. Extended Himself to remove you, leading you out and delivering you, Hyphal perfect, from this, Minzeh. Therefore, do not continue to consume, while lower Kal, Do not make a habit of eating or partaking in, nephil imperfect, the subject, you, are affected by whatever you 198 consistently eat, yeast, chametz, the fungus which puffs up bread with hot air, carbon dioxide, ferments, and grieves, produces alcohol in beer and wine, Shemoth 13-3, this day, Ha-Yam, in the month, Bar-Hadesh, in this time of renewal, of Abib, Ha-Abib, when newly formed and ripening barley is growing and green, when you, Atom, were brought out. Yatsah, were withdrawn and removed. Shemoth, names, Exodus 13:4. It is so obvious, and so vital to our redemption, that I am amazed that no one else has perceived or acknowledged the connection between Yahowah removing us from religious and political corruption and God asking us to memorialize the occasion by removing yeast from our diet. It means that the fungus we are foregoing is the very religion and politics which enslaved the people. This is not only what Yahowah is saving us from, but also what he is asking us to remove from our lives. Therefore, Pesach, Passover opens the doorway to eternal life, making the children of the covenant immortal. Matzah, unyeasted bread perfects us by removing the corruptive nature of religion and politics from our souls. This results in Bikurim, firstborn children whereupon the covenant family is reborn spiritually in anticipation of Shabuah, the promise of 7, when we are empowered and enriched by God. Selah, please pause now and contemplate the enormity of this realization and its influence on our lives here, now and then forevermore. Then consider how much has been lost as a result of the failure to perceive the obvious and capitalize upon it. Rabbis have fundamentally altered the nature of Pesach and Matzah, because God's reality is counter to their religion. In so doing, they have deliberately deprived 100 generations of Jews of their salvation, desecrating the 199 means to life and foreclosing redemption. It is an offense for which a hellish recompense is certain. Rabbis have gone so far as to systematically denounce the fulfillment of the Mikra and deny that Daud served as the Passover lamb. In their Talmud, they have renamed the Zarawa, Yeshu, an acronym which they claim means, "May his name be blotted out." They refer to the Lamb of God as one of the worst people who ever lived who is stuck in hell forever. Then these same rabbis jumped headfirst into the pit of depravity by removing all but an inedible bone from their Passover Seder. Their plate would be modeled after Cain's unacceptable offering, thereby making a mockery of the Mikra while ending the possibility of eternal life. Then, rather than following Yahowah's lead, and memorializing Matzah above all else, celebrating its role in perfecting our souls through the removal of religion, Rabbinic Judaism has reduced the Etzem Kodesh Mikra of Chag Matzah to nothing more than an ingredient. They remove yeast from their homes but are absolutely clueless as to why this should be done. And even then, they do so in conjunction with their religion as opposed to in opposition to religion. As a result, every Jew who has followed the rabbinical example remains mired in the corruption from which God has sought to withdraw us. Depending upon your ethnicity and prior history, you may be wondering which is worse. Is Judaism more at fault for negating the purpose of the Passover lamb while perverting Yahowah's intent to the point their redemption is squandered? Or is Christianity worse for having renamed Daud Jesus, affording him Daud's titles, and then completely ignoring his Passover sacrifice? Judaism has all but eliminated the El from Pesach, while condemning the Passover lamb. Christianity rejects any association with the Mikra, and has turned the lamb into a god. In Judaism, matzah is an ingredient rather than a mikra. But 200 with Christianity, they don't even know what matzah means. Since the consequence for those foisting these lies is Sheol, hell, it is baffling that both religions are deceiving and damning their constituents, and doing so belligerently. The answers Yahowah provided were in writing, in His Towrah, clearly stated, and obvious. Tell, one Nagat, conspicuously and in a straightforward manner inform, your children, La Benota, your sons, about this day, Bar Ha-Yam Ha-Hu, saying, La Ma, for the sake of the participants who benefit from this occasion, Bar Biozeh, because of this, Yahowah, the pronunciation of Yahovah is guided by His Towrah, teaching regarding His higher existence, engaged to do this for me, Asar La Eni, performed this service for me to approach, working on my behalf, when, Bar, and because, I, Eni, came out and was removed, Yatsah, I was withdrawn, from, men, out of, the coercive nature of religion and politics, Miraim, from being subjected to governmental, military and economic control, from having my freedoms curtailed and then being further restricted during a time of testing and tribulation. Shemoth, names, Exodus 13:8. Once we understand that Miraim represents the caustic and controlling influences in our world, we are in a position to keep our children safe. Yahowah engaged to do this for me and for you. He has removed the Miraim from every child of the covenant. While the opportunity to be adopted into the covenant family is available to everyone, societal imprinting is so pervasive, very few are aware of God's offer. Acceptance is predicated upon coming to know Yahweh and understanding what he is offering and expecting in return. Then we must choose to rely exclusively on him and upon 201 his way. No changes, corruptions, concealments, or counterfeits will qualify. Speaking of the benefits of Chag Matzah, God revealed, "And it shall exist, Wahaya, on your behalf, La Otter, as, La, an awe-inspiring sign, oath, a symbol designed to communicate an essential truth, to influence your actions, Al Yod Otter, overriding your ability to make a difference, and, Wah, it represents a reminder for retrospection, depicting a record worth recalling, La Zikarown, a maxim, proverb, symbol, and inheritance right, for comprehension between, therein, to aid in understanding in the midst of, your eyes, Ein Otter, your perspective and ability to be an observant witness. The purpose is so that, Laman, it is for the intent and reason that, the Torah, teaching and guidance, Torah, instructions and directions, of Yahowah, Yahowah, a transliteration of, our Eloah, God has directed in His Towrah, teaching regarding His higher, existence, exists, higher, may be, in your mouth as part of your speech, Bar Peota. Indeed, KY, the powerful and resolute, Chazek, the capable and unyielding, the firm and encouraging, sustaining, consistent, persistent, and confirming, hand, Yod, ability and influence, of Yahowah, Yahowah, the proper pronunciation of Yahovah, our Eloah, God has directed in His Towrah, teaching regarding His higher, existence and our Shalom, restoration, will bring you out, removing and delivering you, Yatzoata, withdrew you and led you away, from, Min, the oppressive nature of religion and politics, Miraim. The despots and tyrants within the cauldrons of military and economic subjugation, the authority figures engaged in coercive cruelty where lives are controlled, confined, and 202 restricted by political persecution. Shemoth, names, Exodus 13:9. The Mikra of Matzah played a pivotal role in the lives of the chosen people, with Yahweh liberating them from the land of Miraim. By doing so, unyeasted bread has become an awe-inspiring sign for us and is symbolic of God's willingness to purge the Miraim from our lives. In this illustration, our hands, eyes and mouths are metaphors, with God wanting what He did for us on this day to influence our actions, our perspective, and our dialogue with others. Chag Matzah is worth remembering and proclaiming. It is one of the Torah's greatest gifts. When pondering how to spend this day, consider Yahweh's advice. Let His Towrah guide our hands, sharing what we have experienced with others. Let this perspective on this day lead to understanding. And as we observe the Torah, let God's words flow from our mouths. After all, we were just told that His Torah, instructions should direct our every thought and action. This pronouncement also serves as an excellent example of religion running amok. The Hasidic wear phylacteries, or tefillin, on the back of their hands, actually strapped from finger to bicep as if a black serpent running up their arms, and on their foreheads, each with Torah snippets contained in them, not understanding that the reference to one's eyes and hand was similar to the mouth. Rabbis go so far as to claim that Shemoth, Exodus 13:9, also Shemoth 13:16 and Dabaran 6-8 and 11:18, demonstrates the need for their oral law, and books such as the Babylonian Talmud, because the Torah does not explain how to build their silly boxes, how they should be worn, or even what verses should be contained in them. Yahweh gave Israel every advantage when it comes to knowing Him, serving with Him, and being part 203 of His family. He revealed His testimony through them, and He saved them from servitude in Miraim. And yet, this is how they have squandered and rejected His generosity. I have devoted the last 22 years of my life to awakening Yisraelites and Yahweh, calling them back to Yahweh, to Moseh, and Daud. All the while it is frustrating to see them act so foolishly and counterproductively. I have long known that there is no opportunity to save the Jews who are Haredi, ultra-Orthodox. Hope is slim for the modern Orthodox and conservatives. Religion remains mankind's most deadly vice. Recognizing this reality, I translate and write for those who are Jewish by ethnicity and neither overtly political nor religious. They will more likely consider renouncing the residue of Miraim within them. The benefits of Pesach and Matzah are squandered when the religious demean Yahweh's service and desecrate His word by wearing it inside of silly black boxes, when they play religious dress-up, and when they venerate the irrelevant and misleading musing of rabbis who have led so many astray. While perhaps less tragic, it is no better for those who corrupt the message of Matzah through religious ceremonies such as the Eucharist and Communion. There is a better choice, one recommended and endorsed by no less than God Himself. Therefore, closely examine and carefully consider, Shema, be aware of and focus upon, cling to and revere, actually contemplating at this time, Kal perfect, this clearly communicated written prescription of what you should do in life to live, Ethar Chukka, this inscription chiseled in stone regarding the process of being cut into the relationship, this engraved 204 invitation to be accepted as part of the whole, drawing near during this eternal witness to the appointed meeting time. Harjoth Lamod, approaching as part of this scheduled appointment memorializing the everlasting testimony, a compound of Mao and Ed, of whom the eternal testimony is about and to whom the everlasting witness pertains, 4, min, days upon days, yaumim, forever, for an unlimited number of days. Shemoth, names, Exodus 13:10. Yes, the mode of Matzah is the day of days. And we benefit from it by Shema, observing it. How is that for simple and direct, especially since we are told what to closely examine and carefully consider? We find Yahweh's Torah, guidance on the means to live a fulfilling and prolonged life again in the 16th chapter of Shemoth, names. Therein, God is not only offering to nourish our bodies and souls with it but, also, use it to ascertain who is listening to him. Then, Yahowah, an accurate presentation of the name of Eloah, God as guided by his Torah, instructions regarding his higher existence, spoke, Amar, to Moshe, as God to the one who withdraws, look to me, Hine, pay attention to me and behold, I will send down, Matah, I will provide and rain down, for you and upon you all, La Atam, on your behalf and for you to approach, Red, Lechem, food, from, Min, the heavens, Harshamim, the spiritual realm, and the family members, Waham, the kin and related people, shall go out, Yatzah, they will extend themselves, come out, and gather, Walekat, glean as in a harvest, collecting, the daily message, the Bar Yaum, the word of the day, each day, Bar Yaum Q. This is so that, Laman, I may determine, Asar, I can conduct a test to distinguish, Peel imperfect energic 205 non-jussive, the evaluation is ongoing and we endure its effect as a demonstrable expression of free will, whether they walk, Huha Holok, if they conduct their lives in accordance with, my Torah, any, my instruction and teaching, my guidance and direction, from my signed, written, and enduring, Torah, way of treating people, giving you the means to explore, to seek, to find. And to choose Yara, the source from which my instruction, teaching, guidance, and direction flow, which provides answers that facilitate your restoration and return, even your response to that which is Tob, good, pleasing, joyful, beneficial, favorable, healing, and right, and that which causes you to be loved, to become acceptable, and to endure, Towrah, purifying and cleansing you. So as to provide you with an opportunity to change your thinking, attitude, and direction, scribed with the first person singular suffix, making the Torah Yahweh's, and in the feminine, singular, construct form, eternally associating and binding the one and only Torah with our holok, walk, or not, lo. Shemoth, names, Exodus 16:4. The means to walk to God and to walk with God are delineated in the Torah. Life is a test to determine who among us takes their Heavenly Father's directions seriously enough to spend eternity by his side. Yahweh's Torah is the ultimate guide, teacher, and authority on earth and in heaven. Consider this discussion. And it came to be that, Wahayamin, the next day, Makarat, Moshe, sat to adjudicate a matter, while Yashab la Shafot, approached and met to judge by confronting the evidence required to make an informed and 206 rational decision, with the family, Ethar in harmony with the related individuals. And the people were present, standing around, while Modha Amal, Moshe, from morning to evening, min Boka at Arab. Shemoth 18:13. When Moseh's father-in-law saw, Warachat and Moshe, all that he was doing for the family, everything which, for the benefit of the relationship, he was engaged in on behalf of the people, he asked, what, Mama, is this matter? Hadabar Hazeh, is the message and purpose of this manner of speaking, which, to show the proper way to get the most out of life, Asher, you are doing, Asar, acting upon, on behalf of the people, Laham. Why are you, Madua Otter, what is the reason and how is it that you, yourself, sitting alone, Yashab Labad Otter, meeting by yourself, with all of the family, Washel Haham, standing around you, Nazar Bal Otter, position over you, from morning to evening, Minha Boka at Arab. Shemoth, names, Exodus 18:14. This is what happens when far too few people are willing to engage in the business of God, which is to share his word and apply it to life's situations. Moses clearly enjoyed helping his people understand the Torah, and it is certain that he was a phenomenal teacher. But a family functions best when we all work together. Moshe, in his response to his father-in-law, provides us with three of the most important reasons to observe the Torah. It is the primary place to look when we are seeking answers from God. So, Moshe answered, Wa Allah Moshe, his father-in-law, La Chatanhu, because, ky, the people, ha-am, family, come to me seeking information about, bo-el-eni la dirosh, arrive, inquiring about, looking 207-4, desiring a relationship with, God, Elohim. Shemoth 18:15. Because, ky, those who come to me, bo-el-eni, have, higher, among them, lahem, accounts and ways of speaking, dabar, messages, questions, concerns, and things to communicate, and I arbitrate and make evaluations, shafot, I make determinations and decisions by exercising good judgment, between an individual and his friends such that they understand, bin ishwa bin riahu, making the proper connections to encourage comprehension between fellow countrymen, and neighbors. And I make known, wa yada, I respect, acknowledge, understand, and reveal, the clearly communicated and inscribed prescriptions for living, authorized and engraved thoughts and recommendations regarding being cut into the relationship and life, of the Almighty, Ha Elohim, the Mighty One who is God, in addition to His Towrah, instructions, wa Towrah, as well as His teaching, guidance, and direction, His signed, written, and enduring means to search for, find, and choose His instructions. Teaching, guidance, and direction which provides answers which facilitate our restoration and return that are good, pleasing, joyful, beneficial, favorable, healing, and right, even purifying and cleansing, thereby giving us the opportunity and means to change our thinking, attitude, and direction regarding Him to one which is more fortuitous and beneficial, scribed in the third-person singular suffix, making the Torah Yahowah's, and in the feminine, singular. And construct form, eternally associating and binding the one and only Torah with Elohim, God Almighty. Shemoth, names, Exodus 18:16. The Torah is the best and most reliable source of answers for those seeking to know Yahowah. The Torah and its prescriptions for living can be used by those who 208 exercise good judgment to resolve the most serious disputes between God and neighbors. With Yahowah's Torah, teaching we can grow past knowing and benefit from understanding. There is no higher calling, no more worthy a mission, than sharing the insights on life, love, relationships, justice, and salvation provided within Yahowah's Torah, instructions. Best of all, because God had Moshe write it all down for us, and then had His message preserved such that we can read His instructions today, we can do as Moshe had done. As such, the Torah is the most relevant and yet underappreciated resource in the universe. Yada is the perfect word for Yahowah to have inspired Moshe to use in reference to his Torah. It tells us that the great liberator was familiar with the Torah, which is what caused him to understand it. Yada tells us that Moshe came to respect the Torah, and that he revered it. From Yada we know that the people came to Moshe because he not only possessed information regarding the Torah, but he was also willing to reveal what he knew to others, providing them with answers. Even better, Yada followed Shafot, which means to exercise good judgment and make informed and rational decisions. And it preceded Bin, which reveals that we come to understand by making the proper connections between things. At this point in the discussion, Moshe's father-in-law interrupts to say something which is marginally appropriate from a man's perspective and wholly counterproductive out of this context. And that in itself is a teaching moment because it reveals that there are many things said in the Torah and throughout the prophets which express the opinions of men and women, not God. And while Moshe listened and responded, and while it is 209 best when we work together, sharing the Torah is always beneficial. And Moshe's father-in-law said to him, Wa ma chothan Moshe el-hu, it is not ideal, lo tob, it is not healthy or good, appropriate or effective, to share the word, ha-dabar, to communicate the message, as Asher, you are now doing, Otto Asar. Shemoth 18:17, you will wear out and wither away, nobble, you will shrivel up and lose heart because you will be considered imprudent and foolish, cal infinitive cal imperfect, literally, demonstrably, and continually being disheartened, not only you but, also, gamotagam, these family members, Ham Hazeh, related people, who are with you, Asherim Otter. This is because, ky, from you, min Otter, by means of you being used as an implement, the word, Hadabar, the message, is very significant and valuable, kabed, worthy and honorable, distinguished and rewarding, but you are not able, lo yakol, you are not able to endure or capable of prevailing, to accomplish it, asahu, engage and prevail in this, by yourself, la bad Otter, alone. Shemoth, names, Exodus 18:17-18. In actuality, what Moshe was doing was so good, there should have been 1,000 others doing it. And the more we devote ourselves to learning and sharing the Word of God, the more vital and vibrant our lives become. No matter how much we strive to give, we always receive more in return. I am not suggesting that any of us are in Moseh's league, but nonetheless, I have 22 years of experience in this regard. And I can attest that, after devoting 10 to 12 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week to clarifying and sharing Yahweh's Torah such that all who are interested understand, I never grow weary of doing 210 so. In fact, the opposite is true. Anytime I step away, I'm itching to return. Furthermore, the covenant is contagious. The more I learn and share, the more others in the covenant family benefit and grow. The novel reference in association with Yahweh's Debar word is explained beautifully in Yeshaya, Isaiah, where we are told that we humans nobble, wither and fade away, but that the Debar Elohim, word of God endures forever. So, the father-in-law is suggesting that more people will be blessed by Yahweh's word if more than one person engages to share it. Kabed is the operative word underlying the meaning of the instruction which encourages us to kabed, honor our father and mother. As is the case with many Hebrew words, it carries more than one meaning. While its primary definition is significant and valuable, worthy and honorable, even glorified and rewarding, its secondary connotation is weighty and heavy, in the sense of mass and value, or seriousness in the sense of thought-provoking. But, not willing to attribute any of these positive evaluations to Yahweh's Torah, Christian translators have universally rendered kabed as being a heavy burden, giving the impression that anything associated with Yahweh's Torah is a burden too heavy for us to endure. The opposite is true because the Torah is freeing and liberating. Apart from Moshe, it is true that the significance, the value, the reward, and the sheer volume and massiveness of the Torah are too great for any one person to convey by themselves. God's teaching, His instruction and guidance, is expansive. 211 However, we are not asked to engage by ourselves. Every word is a conversation with Yeh, a moment spent in His company, and even more than this, the Ruach Kodesh, set-apart spirit exists to enlighten us all along the way. Moseh's father-in-law was actually speaking to the wrong person. Rather than asking Yahweh's prophet to do less, he should have been asking God's people to do more. So now then, Otter, listen, Shama, hear, Kal imperative, to my voice, Bar Kauleni. I have decided upon and am proposing a plan, Yos, I have determined a course of action and am providing advice, Kal imperfect, for you whereby, Ottawa, God, Elohim, will choose to continue to be, higher, will want to actually and constantly be, Kal imperfect Joseph, with you, immortal, around you in a continued association, near and alongside you. You can choose yourself to be, high otter, you may continue to exist, Kal imperative, near and concerned about the people, Laha am, beside the family, as the circumcised before, mobile, in front of and facing, then curtailing and warding off by invoking the name of, the Almighty, Ha Elohim. Then, you, yourself, can bring, Wa'ata Bo, you can come, returning, Haifel perfect, the messages and issues, Ethar Dabarim, the statements, sayings, and communications, to the Almighty, El Ha Elohim. Shemoth, names, Exodus 18:19. Wrong. He has it backward. We should be listening to Yahweh's voice, not man's. The only advice and plans which matter are those expressed by God. The father-in-law's opinions are irrelevant. 212 God chose Moshe and he was committed to working through him. Moreover, Moshe made his decision to represent Yahweh on behalf of the people during their initial encounter. With each passing day, the result of their partnership continued to be expressed in Dabarim, words, Deuteronomy. This known, why did his father-in-law use mol, the Hebrew word for circumcision, in this context? No one stands between us and God, no one curtails God, no one wards God off either, not even great prophets like Moses. Although to be fair, Yethro, Moseh's father-in-law, would not have known any better. He was a Midian priest, and not a Yisra'elite, so he would not have been speaking for Yahweh. While we have no reason to suspect that Yethro was anything other than a good man, Midian in Hebrew means contention and strife. Additionally, we are best served when Yahweh's prophets do as they are asked, which is to share Yahweh's Dabarim, words with us. There is no reason for them to convey ours to him. If not for what came before it, this would be good advice. And you can warn them and be their shining light, while Zahar Ethem, you can dissuade and admonish them, conveying the dangerous consequences of their current behavior while brilliantly teaching and enlightening them, with the clearly communicated and inscribed prescriptions for living, Ethar Cook, the engraved thoughts and recommendations which cut us into the relationship, and with regard to, Wa'eth, the Torah, teachings and instructions, Torah, signed and written directions and guidance. And then, Wa, you will cause them to know and understand, Yada Lahem, you will reveal and provide 213 them with the information which leads to being aware of, recognizing, and acknowledging, the way, Ethar Derek, the path, singular and absolute, they should consistently walk, halak, they should continually follow, travel, and go about their lives, kal imperfect, with this, high in it, along with, eth, the work, hamaseh, the preparation, pursuits, actions, results, labors, business, accomplishments, and achievements, from ma, to ponder the implications of asar, doing, which, to receive the benefits of the relationship, asher, to show the way to the path to walk to get the most enjoyment out of life, they should act upon and pursue, asar, they should engage in, endeavor to undertake, celebrate, and profit from, kal imperfect. Shemoth, names, Exodus 18:20. The father-in-law's vocabulary continues to be a bit puzzling, even when he returns to offer some sound advice. Zahar is a loaded term, meaning everything from warning and cautioning to teaching and enlightening, from admonishing and dissuading to being brilliant. Vocalized as Zohar, it is the name rabbis have ascribed to the religious text underlying the spiritualism and magic of Kabbalah. In that context, Zohar has been extrapolated to extol the rabbis who wrote it as the everlasting glorification and brilliance of the teachers of righteousness. This known, the object of Zohar was to be Yahweh's quickened Torah. But wasn't that already Moseh's life's Moseh work? When we consider Dabarim, all we hear is Moses admonishing and enlightening those seeking to know Yahweh. As a result of the Torah, teaching and its prescriptions, we come to Yada, know and understand the Derek, way to halak, walk which enables us to pursue the 214 Moseh, work of God and thoughtfully and meaningfully asar, engage. Let's consider God's teaching on how we received His Towrah. That story is also found in Shemoth, names. And as we read this explanation, please note that all 7 of the names, 6 individuals in addition to Yisrael, listed in this revelation are important, as is the reference to 70. It serves to expose the lies which undergird rabbinic Judaism. Rabbis Akiba and Maimonides advanced the myth that 70 elders of Israel received their oral law at the same time Moses received the Torah from Yahweh. But God says otherwise. To Moses, Moshe, to the one who draws out, he said, Amar, ascend, Allah, rise up, to, Yahweh, a transliteration of, our Eloah, God as directed in His Torah, teaching regarding His higher existence, Otter, Aharown, Aharown, therein, the alternative, the one who brings light and choice, i.e., inform free will, Nadob, encourage the willing, the one who volunteers, giving freely, and Abiwu, he is my father, from Hu, he and Ab, father. But, the 70, Shibim, from, Min, the elders, Zakan, old people, of Yisrael, individuals who strive and struggle against God or who engage and endure with the Almighty, you will come up with your own oral explanations by acting independently, influencing yourselves with your interpretations and verbal communications. Sure, you will form your own oral arguments, making your pronouncements, Hitpale perfect. Makes it absolutely clear that the elders of Yisrael composed their own oral 215 arguments without input of any kind from Yahweh or Moses, from afar at a great distance away, min rechauk, distanced and removed, separated and alienated, being absent and remote. Shemoth, names, Exodus 24:1. 4 people were invited to ascend the mountain to meet with Yahweh. Each was named and chosen by God. Moses, the one who draws out, Aharown, the alternative, Nadob, encouraging the willing, and Abiwu, he is my father. The 70 elders of Yisrael, however, those credited by the rabbis for having received the oral law from God on this day, were isolated and on their own, sent a great distance away. And even worse for Judaism's most foundational claim, their oral arguments, aka, the Talmud, was pronounced independently. The Hitpale stem is uncommon, and yet it speaks volumes. When it is used, as it was here with Towrah, to announce verbally, it means that their oral arguments were developed on their own initiative without any outside influence. God has just placed a dagger into the heart of Judaism. We know this because the Hitpale stem, which is deployed only 170 times in the Tanakh, reveals that the subject, which is the elders, acted on their own initiative and, yet, managed to influence many into believing their interpretive oral testimony. Scribed in the perfect conjugation, this is what occurred, and nothing more, during this moment in time. Sure, when modified by the Hitpale stem, provides a precise prophetic portrayal of the greatest curse to befall Yahweh and Yisrael. Jews have caused more harm to themselves with their diatribes against Yahweh through their Talmud than Christians and Muslims combined. 216 At the very moment Jews claim that their religion was born, God killed it. The Hasidic are without excuse. They have unfettered access to Yahweh's testimony, and God just acknowledged they are only fooling themselves. They remain min rechauk, afar, a great distance away, removed, separated, and alienated from Yahowah. There is only one Torah, the one presented to Moseh. Without it, no one can approach Yah. Then, Moshe, alone, labad, exclusively and by himself, approached and was personally present. Nagas, came near and entered the presence. Nifil perfect, subject alone is affected by approaching at this moment, himself moving toward, Yahowah, the proper pronunciation of Yahowah, our Eloah, God as directed in His Towrah, teaching regarding His Hayah, existence and our Shalom, restoration. But, the others, they did not approach and were not present, Lo Nagas, did not come near. So, therefore, the people, they did not ascend, Lo Allah, they did not climb up, with him, Imhu. Shemoth, names, Exodus 24:2. Yahowah chose Moses to be the conduit for the word of God. Having proved worthy of his calling, that role would continue. He had wielded Yahowah's words against the most powerful kingdom in the world and they had prevailed. Thereafter, Moses invited the people to celebrate Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim and they engaged. Now, 7 weeks later, he was about to enrich, enlighten, and empower them on Shabat by delivering the Torah. Moshe, one who draws out, returned, arrived and approached, and accurately 217 recounted a written record, Sefer, provided an accurate accounting by way of an inscribed scroll, the people, family, of all of, Shirl, of every one of, the words, Gabari, the statements message, and communication, of Yahowah, written as directed by His Towrah, teaching regarding His higher, existence, including every, Shirl, means provided to exercise good judgment and resolve disputes. Mishpat, the ability to decide, to make rational decisions, to reach sound verdicts, to achieve justice and to be both right and fair, resolving conflicts, to contemplate the process of Shafot, deciding, exercising good judgment, and resolving disputes. Shemoth, names, Exodus 24:3. Moses brought an accurate written record of what Yahowah revealed to him. As a result, it is as if we were there. While we are not privy to the tenor of Yahowah's voice, listening, while good, isn't as effective as reading where our processing speed, retention, and capacity to understand are enhanced. The written word provides us with the opportunity to study the text at the most opportune pace and to pause whenever we wish to contemplate its implications. The written word of God is truth maintained for individual consumption. Of paramount importance is the use of Sefer, to accurately and carefully record in writing, providing a precise accounting. God purposely selected Sefer and combined this with Dabari, my words to reveal that the Torah isn't hearsay. It is admissible evidence as a contemporaneous transcription of Yahowah's testimony. It is comprised of God's words. Since Yahowah is ascribing precision, it seems reasonable we do the same. For example, since Yahowah wrote set apart, we shouldn't replace this concept with holy. Since God wrote Yahowah, those who replace his name with the Lord are copy editors rather than 218 translators. Since Torah means teaching, changing it to law is both errant and dishonest. More telling still, Sapar, to accurately account is identical in its letter composition to Sefer, which is written communication, a document, book, or scroll. That is not to say, however, that the entire Torah was transcribed at this juncture, but only that everything God had said so far was accurately recorded. There would be yet another, more comprehensive installment. Had the sentence concluded with all of the words of Yahowah, it would have been sufficient to convey that Moses had been a reliable scribe. But there is more to God's teaching than words, more to guidance than the letters on the page. It is how we process them that matters. And that is where Mishpat adds to our comprehension. Comprised of to ponder the implications of something in Shafot, to judge and to decide, it indicates that there is a recommended way to think about what God has revealed. Specifically, we are to exercise good judgment and focus on the means that have been provided to resolve disputes, so that we are all on the same page. Mishpat provides an insight into something particularly sinister. This word became synonymous with the Jewish religion and served as a warning to those who would try to usurp God's authority. Mishpat has been religiously transliterated as mitzvot. Then, 2,500 years after Moses inscribed Yahowah's Mishpat, means to decide, Rabbi Moshe Maimonides concocted his 613 mitzvot, rabbinical regulations, edicts, and laws which serve to define Judaism. Usurping Yahowah's credibility, these Jewish commandments were labeled Halakha and Torah, which they misconstrued as rules and law. Then as affirmation, he claimed that his list was equal to the number of seeds in a pomegranate 219 and the quantity of bones in the human body, neither of which is true. Citing the Rambam, rabbis claimed authority for themselves and condemned tens of millions of Jewish souls in the process. But as we have just witnessed, there is no record of their oral law existing prior to the emergence of rabbinical influence 1,500 to 2,500 years after the Torah was meticulously transcribed and read to the people. Unlike their present-day infatuation with the Talmud, on this day, the children of Yisrael listened to the Torah. And all, Yisrael, the people, family, answered, Anna, replied and responded, Kal imperfect, in one, Ekad, voice, Kaul, saying, all, Shirl, every one of, the words, Dabarim, statements and accounts which, for the benefit of the relationship, Asher, to show the way to get the greatest enjoyment out of life, Yahowah, an accurate presentation of the name of Eloah, God as guided by His Towrah, instructions regarding His higher existence, has spoken, Debar, has communicated through these words at this moment in time, Peel perfect. At this point the people reflected the intent of the words, we will act upon, Asar, we will engage in and profit from, accomplish and celebrate, bringing about their intent, Kal imperfect. Shemoth, names, Exodus 24:3. Then providing what should have been yet another death blow to the religions of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, 1,500 to 2,500 years before they were conceived under Paul, Akiba, Muhammad, and Maimonides, Yahweh revealed, and, Moshe, the one who draws out, wrote down, Katab, engraved and inscribed using an alphabet, a pen, ink, and parchment to record as a scribe a written record of, Kal imperfect, every one of, Shirl 220, all, the words, Dabarim, statements and accounts of Yahweh, a transliteration of Yahowah as instructed in His Torah, teaching regarding His higher existence. Shemoth, names, Exodus 24:4 in part. Since Yahweh has demonstrated that His testimony is true, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are false, as is secular humanism. Since the Torah was accurately transcribed, the religious corruptions and counterfeits of God's foundational message to humankind cannot be trustworthy or reliable since they are contradictory, and as such, for the sake of many, these religions must be exposed and condemned. This declaration is particularly caustic to Judaism because it precludes the notion of an oral law. Since Moses wrote down everything Yahweh said, Judaism's claim that the 70 elders received a second oral law, at the same time, crumbles. Further, if these words cannot be trusted, if Moses didn't accomplish what Yahweh attested, Judaism cannot be relied upon because it would then have drawn its authority from twisting the words of an unreliable God and an errant text. This revelation is also damning of Christianity. It means that the religion's festivals, symbols, and beliefs are wrong since they are in conflict with the testimony of God as transcribed by Moses. Mutually exclusive and diametrically opposing concepts, such as the massive discrepancies which exist between the Torah and the Church, cannot both be right. Since the invitations to be called out and meet and the Shabat are from God, Christmas, Easter, and Sunday worship are not. He grasped hold of, walakek, he received and accepted, taking, Kal imperfect, actually, literally, and consistently obtaining, the written communication, Sefer, the inscribed documentation, the engraved scroll with accurate and exacting, physically recorded 221 inscriptions on it, regarding the covenant, Habarith, the family-oriented relationship agreement based upon mutual trust, binding oaths and promises, the alliance and marriage vow, from Baith, family, home, and household, singular and absolute, and, He read it aloud, offering an invitation to meet, Kara, he pronounced a summons to be called out, to be welcomed, proclaiming, announcing, and reciting it, within, the hearing, Erzan, the ears to be heard, of the family, for the people. Then, they said, so they responded by promising and affirming, everything, Shirl, all, which, to reveal the proper path to walk to receive the benefits of the relationship, Asher, Yahweh, a transliteration of, our Eloah, God as directed in His Towrah, teaching regarding His higher existence, has spoken, Debar, has communicated in words, we have listened to, Shama, we have heard, and we will act upon, Wasar, we will engage in, acknowledge, profit from, and celebrate. Shemoth, names, Exodus 24:7. The original scroll of the Torah includes the written documentation of the Berith, covenant. To benefit from this relationship, and to become part of Yahweh's family, we must do as they did, read and recite the words of the Torah, listen to God, and then act upon what He has shared with us. Yahweh's revelation has been meticulously recorded so that we might come to know Him, understand what He is offering and expecting in return, thereby, enabling us to trust and rely upon His provisions. It was Kara which was translated as read it aloud, offering an invitation to meet. It is the verb which lies at the heart of Mikra. Its primary definition is to call out, inviting and summoning us into God's presence, welcoming us to meet with Yahowah. It also means to read and recite, to announce and proclaim. Collectively, 222 these ideas define the purpose of the Torah and the Covenant. Yahowah is not only calling us to Him, but He is also calling us out of this world to His set-apart realm. He is inviting us into His family. We answer Him by walking along the 7-step path He has provided to His home. The Torah is the way. The Covenant is the result. The Mikra is the path. What happens next is a foreshadowing of Daud's Passover sacrifice and the future fulfillment of the Torah's Mikra. Moshe, the one who draws out, took some, lakek, obtained and received, grasped hold of and accepted a portion, kal imperfect, of the blood, ethadam, and he sprinkled it, zarak. He used his fingertips to collect and disperse some small drops, before, over, near, and toward, the family, ha'am, the people. He said, Wah-ma, behold, hine, look now and see, pay attention to, the blood, hadam, of the familial covenant relationship, habarith, of the household alliance and the binding promise regarding the family-oriented agreement, which, for the benefit of relationship, asher, which, to show the way, Yahowah, written as directed by His Towrah, teaching regarding His higher existence, has cut, has formed as a solemn agreement between parties with stipulations and responsibilities for their mutual benefit and unity, with you, imatum, concerning all of these, al-shirlaleh, over each of these, words, debar, statements. Shemoth, names, Exodus 24:8. The doorway to the covenant is Passover. The lamb is offered so that we might live. And it is through Daud's sacrifices that Yahowah made it possible for us to enter His home. 223 Throughout the Torah, we are reminded that the Berith, covenant was cut with us. This symbolism is consistent with being called out, being set apart, and being circumcised. As a result of listening to and acting upon the word of God, the children of Yisrael were prepared, albeit temporarily, to meet their Maker. And so, Moshe Moses, the one who draws out, Aharown, Aharown, Aaron, the alternative, the one who brings light and choice, i.e., informed free will, Nadab, encourage the willing, the one who volunteers, giving freely, and Abihu, he is my father, from Hu, he and Ab, father, and, the 70, Shibim, from, Min, the elders, Zakan, old people, of Yisrael, individuals who strive and struggle against God or who engage and endure with the Almighty, ascended, Allah, rose and climbed up. They saw, they were shown and looked upon, the God, Elohim, the Mighty One, of Yisrael, individuals who strive with God. Shemoth, names, Exodus 24:9-10 in part. It is interesting to report that the names of the participants, in the order they are presented, tell us something about Yahowah, the one who draws us out, the alternative to man's way who brings enlightenment and free will, the one who voluntarily gives of himself, he is my father. This time, the elders of Yisrael were allowed to see God. But there is no indication that He revealed anything to them. Before Yahowah would convey another installment of His message, He would reduce the audience back down to a single individual. 224 The passage goes on to reveal that this manifestation of God was corporeal, that is to say, He had hands and feet, and He enjoyed a good meal. And in the process of doing this, Yahowah destroyed the religion Maimonides would later conceive because, to denounce the notion that the Son of God served as the Pesach El, the Rambam claimed, God is incorporeal, incapable of assuming human form. And, under, taketh, his feet, regal hue, there seemed to be, a work, Moseh, something made, of bricks, libna, tablets and tiles of precious stones, similar to sapphires and lapis lazuli, sapa, of an accurate accounting, and like, wakar, so as to be similar to, the essence of, etzem, the structure comprising, the heavens, shamim, relative to the brilliance and clarity, la tohar, the brightness and coloration, splendor and majesty. Shemoth, 24:10. But, he did not extend, lo shalak, he did not stretch out, place or offer, his hand, Yod-Hu, 2, El, the leaders, Atzel, the rulers, those holding status, and the most eminent, especially the religious and political, of the children of Yisrael, Ben Yisrael. And yet, they observed, Chazer, they looked at, the Almighty, Elohim, and they ate, Kal, they dined, and drank, Shatha, consumed beverages. Shemoth, names, Exodus 24:11. That is an indicting statement and, yet, consistent with God's approach to humankind. Yahowah is not impressed with status, leadership positions, or resumes. To the elders of Yisrael, God did not offer his hand. Case closed on the preposterous notion that the Talmud was inspired. It is nothing other than the arrogant and confused mumblings of the kinds of men Yahowah would not touch. What is also telling is that, while God did not have any contact with the most eminent of Yisraelites, he still let 225 them know that he existed. He wanted them to be aware of what they were forfeiting to go their own way, and as such, Judaism is premeditated murder and thus not manslaughter. While we aren't explicitly told, based on the timing, I am convinced that they were observing the Mikra of Shabat, 7 Shabbats. It is celebrated 7 weeks after firstborn children. At this time, everyone is invited to a feast whereupon the benefits of the Torah, Mikra, and Covenant are explained, even to those estranged from God, which would explain the presence of the elders of Yisrael. It is symbolic of God enriching and empowering his children, which is the express purpose of the Torah, its Mikra and Berith. When it came time to reveal his Torah, Yahowah knew who he could trust. Yahowah, Yahowah, an accurate presentation of the name of Eloah, God as guided by his Torah, instructions regarding his higher existence, said, Amar, spoke, to, Moses, Moses, the one who draws out, under the auspices of free will, choose to come up, Allah, of your own initiative, rise up and ascend, Kal imperative, the choice is literally yours to rise up, to me, LNE, on the mountain, ha. Choose of your own volition to be, higher, elect of your own free will to exist, Kal imperative, a genuine offer to exist provided to the listener under the auspices of free will, here, Sham, near me, because I want to give to you, Wa Nathan Laughter, and then I will be able to produce for you, Kal cohortative, a literal expression of the speaker's will and desire to bestow, the tablets of stone, Etheluvak ha Eben, the finished surface for inscribing words which is suitable for rebuilding and re-establishing. Along with, Wa, the Torah, ha Torah, the teaching, instruction, guidance, and direction, from Yara, source of teaching and instruction and of the 226 pouring out of guidance and direction, including, Wa, the terms and conditions of the relationship, Ha Mitswah, the authoritative and instructive directions which serve as prescriptions of the mutually binding agreement. Providing the means to accomplish what is required, from my, to ponder the implications of Zawa, terms and requirements, precepts and instructions regarding expectations, which, to show the way to get the most out of life, Asher, to show the correct path to walk to receive the benefits of the relationship, I have written, Katab, I have inscribed to communicate by way of words using an alphabet, Kal perfect, to teach and guide them, La Yarahem, to direct and instruct them. Shemoth, names, Exodus 24:12. 3 times in a single statement we find an affirmation that it is Yahowah's desire to provide his Torah, guidance to us, and it is our choice to accept or reject it. Further, God wanted Moses to choose to be with him. It is what God desires most, our companionship, especially when there is something important to be accomplished. This request also reveals something about God that few people consider. He chose to be with one man, not 4, not 74, and not hundreds of thousands. Yahowah found his relationship with Moses to be sufficient at the moment, although through it, many more would come to know him. There is something about personal interactions that is lost in a larger group. We are less guarded, more open and approachable, in one-on-one conversations. Moreover, the larger the group, the more likely it becomes that we will acquiesce to the crowd and be less personally accountable and responsible. The more men congregate, the worse we become. That is what happened with the 70 elders, and it explains why they were no longer welcome. 227 As an example of Yahowah's affinity for one-on-one interactions, God found Adam to be fulfilling. Chor was added for Adam's benefit, not to make God's existence more enjoyable. Yahowah communicated directly with Noach, who then communicated with his wife, his sons and their wives. Through the one, many were saved. Yahowah reached out to a single man and woman, Abraham and Sarah, when initiating the covenant. They grew to become a family. And with family, there would be more heartaches and joys as frustrations were interlaced with opportunities. Among all of the people of Yisrael, Yahowah chose Daud. He became the exemplar of his people and the covenant. And he would compose the Mizmor and Marshal and fulfill the Mod Mikra in anticipation that through one there would be many. Clearly, Yahowah loves many people, both men and women. He has cultivated thousands of wonderful and productive relationships, and there are many more to be developed. But on the whole, the lesson is clear: God is not only content with fewer people in his presence, at times he prefers it. One of the reasons this insight into God's nature is not well known is because man's view is the opposite. Religions are validated in the eyes of the constituents based on their popularity. In reality, the larger the institution, the worse it becomes. Truth has never been popular. This is especially valid today with political correctness and cancel culture demanding that the truth be rejected so that their lies can be accepted. There were three things Yahowah wanted to provide to us through Moseh, Luvach ha-Eben, the tablets of stone, ha-Torah, the teaching and guidance, and ha-228 Mitswah, the instructive terms of the relationship agreement. Of these, the religious have abridged and mistranslated the first, replaced the second, and ignored the third. Fortunately, you and I have access to all three. Our interest in them and acceptance of them will determine whether or not we will enjoy private moments with Yahowah, as did Moseh. The only short book in the Yada Yahowah series is written in stone. This is because Yahowah intended for the two tablets to serve as the abstract to his dissertation. The three statements on the first tablet explain the nature of Yahowah's desired relationship with humankind. The 7 instructions on the second tablet guide us toward that result. It is the only attempt God made to summarize his Towrah. The Hebrew word Torah defines the purpose of the book. It serves as an instruction manual for human existence, including, as it should, our Creator's prescriptions for productive living. In it, we discover God's guidance, giving us a set of directions to get the most out of life. The Torah conveys Yahowah's teaching through which to understand what God is offering and expects in return. As we have learned but will continue to reinforce, Torah is from to, assigned, written, and enduring Torah, way of treating people, ta, giving us the means to explore, to seek, to find, and to choose, yara, the source from which instruction, teaching, guidance, and direction flow, which tub, provides answers which facilitate our restoration and return, even our response to that which is tob, good, pleasing, joyful, beneficial, healing, and right, and that which causes us to be loved, to become acceptable, and to endure, Tahara, purifying 229 and cleansing us, Tor, so as to provide us with an opportunity to change our thinking, attitude, and direction. The Torah is the reservoir of human potential. It is the only way out of this life alive and to live with God in heaven. There is nothing in the etymology of Torah which would cause an informed and rational individual to miscast God's guidance and teaching as law. Obedience to a set of laws is a religious contrivance. In fact, the Hebrew lexicon does not include a word which can be accurately translated as obey. When you see it in a Bible, it is the result of misrepresenting shama, to listen. The third gift on Yahowah's list was ha-Mitswah, the instructive terms of the relationship agreement. These are comprised of the 5 conditions of the covenant. They provide the means to accomplish what is required to become a member of God's family. Mitswah is a compound of my, an interrogatory, which encourages us to ask the who, what, where, when, why, and how questions regarding the implications of Zawah, the instructions and directions, the terms and conditions, the requirements and prescriptions regarding the expectations of the relationship. The instructive conditions we are asked to meet should we want to benefit from the covenant are, 1. Distance ourselves from the Babel, intermixing of the religion and politics of man, 2. Trust and rely on Yahowah rather than human institutions, 3. Walk to Yahowah along the path he has provided and become perfected, 4. Closely examine and carefully consider these mitzvah, conditions of the covenant, and 5. Circumcise our sons while equipping them to participate in the Mikra and Berith. These mitzvah, instructive terms lead to the asher, benefits of the relationship agreement. By accepting them, 230 we are assured of being on the right path to get the most enjoyment out of life. Yahowah concluded this listing of gifts he was bestowing by affirming that Torah was, in fact, predicated upon the verb, yara, to guide and direct, teach and instruct. Recognizing the source and the subject, the Torah becomes the most enlightening and empowering, enhancing and enriching book in the universe. It is Shabuah, after all. Further, Yahowah Katab, wrote it. Not just the 2 tablets of stone, but also the Torah including the Mitswah. I had thought that Yahowah articulated these stories and explanations and Moseh wrote them down, but Katab was inscribed in the Kal stem, perfect conjugation, first person singular. This means that there was a point in time when God, himself, literally wrote the Torah and tablets. And Yahowah did so for the express purpose of Yara, teaching and guiding us. Therefore, God has provided the answers, teaching us what we need to know while guiding us along the path to Him. This does not mean that Moseh stopped learning or that he did not inscribe some of what Yahowah said onto a scroll on his own or augment it along the way, as is the case with Dabarim, Deuteronomy. It is something Yahowah would ask of Israel's leadership, knowing that by writing it down they would learn from it. While the invitation was for one, Moseh did not stand alone. Yahusha, Joshua would assist him, which is an example we may want to emulate. So, Moshe, the one who draws out, and, Yahusha, Yahowah frees, delivers and saves, the son of Nun of the tribe of Ephraim, the one assisting him, Sharat Hu, the one attending to him, and associating as a helper to serve him, Peel participle, stood up, Korm, arose, standing 231 upright, and, Wah, Moshe, the one who draws out, ascended, Allah, and went up, climbing, toward, the mountain of God, Ha Elohim. Shemoth, names, Exodus 24:13. The change from Aharown, the alternative to Yahowah liberates and saves, is noteworthy at this juncture. This was the beginning of a rift in which Aharown would stay behind with the elders and join them in digging a hole for themselves. Then, Wah, to the elders, Zakan, the seasoned citizens who were leaders within the community, he said, Amar, he clarified and stated, it is your decision to remain and wait, Yashab, wait, Kal imperative, for us right here, La Naknu Shamzeh, until we return to you with the everlasting testimony regarding the benefits of the relationship, Ad Asher Shub El Atom. Take note, Wahine, behold, Aharown, the alternative and free will, and Cha, to dig a hole, are with you, Imatum, being similar to you and associated with you. If, should, Baal, the Lord, Baal, the Master who possesses, aka, Satan, speaks, Debar, conveys a message and has an affair, let him approach them, Nigash Elhem, let him be present with them. Shemoth, names, Exodus 24:14. This is the preeminent contrast between Yahowah and the Lord. Moses would take a stand with Yahshua and ascend to Yahowah to receive the Torah. All the while, the alternative would misuse his free will to construct and worship a golden calf in concert with the elders while listening to Baal, the Lord and adversary. These things considered, Yahowah could be using this passage to predict that rabbis, as the lords and masters of words, would ascribe their oral law to these 7,232 men, suggesting that their Talmud would be of Baal and not him. Neither of these insights is available, however, to someone placing their trust in a KJV or JPS translation. The King James Version mistranslated Baal, Lord, as any man to propose. If any man have any matters to do, let him come unto them. Having neglected to translate the subject and the verb, they added without basis any man, have any matters, and to do. The Jewish Publication Society was equally errant with, whosoever hath a cause, let him come near unto them. It is as if Baal, the Lord, was not mentioned, and as if Debar, to speak, was hath a cause. In this next pronouncement, Sinai is spelled Samak Yaud Nun Yaud, or, the graphic intent of these letters reads, my sign I am giving to my children. In the process of trying to ascertain the meaning of Sinai, I came upon something interesting. Siwan, which means their covering, is also the name of the third month of the Torah's year. It, therefore, corresponds to the Mikra of Shabuah in May or June, 7 sevens from Bikurim. Therefore, this correlation between Sinai and the month of Siwan suggests that the first installation of the Torah corresponds to the timing of Shabuah, serving as this day's source of enrichment, enlightenment, and empowerment. Also relevant, the purpose of the set-apart Spirit's garment of light is to adorn us in Yahowah's glory and, thereby, conceal our religious and political past, making us appear perfect in God's eyes. The spiritual rebirth which facilitates this transformation is often equated with water, as it has been here on Mount Sinai, because we are born of water and because water cleanses and purifies. 233 Then, Moshe, the one who draws out, climbed up, Allah, ascended, upon the mountain, even though the mountain, was covered, it was shrouded, in a cloud, in either water vapor or smoke. Shemoth 24:15. And the glorious presence and splendor, Kabod, the manifestation of power and attribution of honorable characteristics, the tremendous significance, abundance and reward, of Yahowah, a transliteration of Yahovah as instructed in his Torah, teaching regarding his higher existence, came to dwell, shaken, came to inhabit and live, settling upon and abiding, upon, Mount, Sinai. The cloud, Anan, water vapor or smoke, clothed and adorned, Kasha, covered and concealed, it, him or him, Yahowah, Moses, and the mountain are all masculine singular, for 6, days, Yamim, and on, Wabar, in, the 7th, Shabi, day, Yawm, he called out, Kara, he offered an invitation and summons, to, Moshe, the one who draws out, from, Min, the midst, talk, middle or center, of the cloud, Ha'anan, obscuring accumulation of water vapor and or smoke particles. Shemoth, names, Exodus 24:16. While God is eternal, time is very important to him. Everything crucial to his revelation, and our relationship and salvation occurs on his schedule. His plan of salvation is being mirrored here, just as it was in the creation account and is in the Shabat. The path to God is comprised of 6 steps which lead to the final result, to camping out with our Heavenly Father on the Shabat, or 7th day. In this passage, shaken, meaning to camp out, to settle down, to dwell and temporarily abide, explains the Mikra of Sukkah, shelters, the 7th and final festival feast. And just as the 7th of 7 Mikra, 234 invitations to be called out and meet God follows 6 days of preparation, Yahowah Kara, called out to Moses, inviting him to meet with him on the 7th day. As such, 6, representing man who was conceived on the 6th day, in addition to 1, representing God who is 1, equates to 7, symbolic of God's promise to shaken, settle our affairs so that we can settle down, camp out, and live with him. Also relative to the timing, 6 days of preparation followed by the summons on the 7th, there is an insight few have considered. There was no indication that either Yahowah or Moses engaged, doing any work during the initial 6 days. It was not until the 7th that they began the long process of educating and guiding humankind. This realization seems to affirm the interpretation of the Shabat we will present throughout these volumes. The Shabat, rather than a time to do nothing, is the best time to observe our relationship with Yahowah by reading the very same Torah he presented to Moses at this moment in time. Further, by saying that Kabod represents his manifestation of power, his splendor and glory, his status and reputation, and his abundance and significance, when God uses its root, kabad, in his instruction to view as honorable, worthy, and significant our father and mother in the instruction he engraved in stone on this day, we ought to immediately recognize that Yahowah was speaking of kabad, valuing our heavenly father and spiritual mother. Also, the reason that water vapor and smoke are being associated with Yah's presence is because water is both the source of life, and nature's ultimate solvent, and is symbolic of our birth and cleansing. And the smoke of a fire rises up to God, illustrating the direction our souls will travel if we rely upon him. Reinforcing this point, we read 235 The appearance, wa mare, then the vision and sight, the visual spectacle and phenomenon, the mirror image and reflection, the manifestation of power and the glorious presence, kabod, the splendor and tremendous riches, the honorable characteristics deserving reverence and respect, the reputation and abundance, the significance and weighty nature, of Yahowah, Yahowah, God's name transliterated as guided by his Torah, instructions on his higher existence and his role in our Shalom. Reconciliation as Eloah, Almighty God, was similar to, Ka, could be compared to, a consuming, a kal, feeding, fire, esh, flames of radiant energy as a source of light, within, bar, the summit, rosh, the top, of the mountain, ha, from the point of view and perspective, la ain, eyesight and capacity to understand, the perceptions, of the children of Yisra'el, Beni Yisrael, the offspring who engage and endure with God. Shemoth, names, Exodus 24:17. This provides an interesting clue, one we will use when we consider Yahowah's instructions throughout the Mikra. This is particularly relevant on Yom Kippurim, the Day of Reconciliations, when we are asked to come into the presence of the Isha, feminine manifestation of this fiery light. Reinforcing this symbolism, Yahowah is using Esh, fire to convey aspects of his nature and purpose. Fire is a brilliant source of light, which is the closest analog to the spiritual energy of God. Equally important, fire transforms dying organic life into radiant energy, just as we, as physical beings, can be elevated to the 7th dimension through this conversion process. It was the summit of this mountain which was ablaze, not a burning bush. Yahowah has and will ratchet down his energy to serve us but not to the scale of an insignificant shrub. Mountains are symbolic of power and influence in Hebrew, bushes are not. Moreover, the evidence of his appearance here on the summit of this 236 Arabian mountain is still visible upon Jabal Makla, the burnt mountain. Trekking higher up the mountain of God on Shabat, we discover Moshe, the one who draws out, entered, pursued, came to, arrived, and was included into, bar, the midst, talk, of the water vapor, anon, cloud and mist, and ascended higher, while he climbed up and rose up, upon the mountain, El-Ha-Ha. And then, Moshe, was, higher, existed, on the mountain, Bar-Ha-Ha, for 40, Arbaim, to be square and thus right, days, Yaumim, and, 40, Arbaim, to be square and thus right, nights, Layla. Shemoth, names, Exodus 24:18. If Yahowah could have summarized his Torah, teaching, such that it was reduced to a handful of bullet points, Moses would not have been on the mountain this long. If his Torah, guidance could have been condensed to the length of an average sermon, God would have done so. The very fact that Moses was there 40 days and 40 nights speaks volumes about how much there is for us to learn, know, and understand. 40 is the number Yahowah has designated as the time required for the completion of a period of examination. For example, 40 Yobel, 2000, years transpired from being expelled from the Gan Eden, the garden of great joy, to the conception of the covenant with Abraham. Another 40 Yobel would transpire from that day to the fulfillment of its promises. The final 40 Yobel will have run their course upon Yahweh's return. Moseh's own life repeats this pattern. He was 40 years old when he fled Miriam. He was 80 upon his return as the liberator of his people. And he would lead them another 40 years, reaching 120 years old at the conclusion of his 237 mortal existence. He had lived 3 lives, one as a prince in Miriam, one as a shepherd in Arabia, and one as Yahweh's prophet. It was an extraordinary life. Yahweh's penchant for 40 is further reinforced by the fact it rained for 40 days and nights during the flood. And the children of Yisrael wandered in the wilderness for 40 years before they were allowed to enter the promised land. God's plan of reconciliation unfolds over 7 days, following his 6, man, plus 1, God, equals 7, the desired result of the covenant, formula. There are 6 steps which lead to God: Passover, unyeasted bread, firstborn children, 7 Shabbats, trumpets, and reconciliations, with the 7th, shelters, representing the desired result, which is camping out with our Heavenly Father. Therefore, we should not be surprised that human history follows this pattern, with the first 6 invitations to be called out and meet occurring during the first 6 days, represented by 6,000 years, all of which lead to the millennial Shabat, a 1,000-year celebration of the Mikra of Sukkah. Using these insights, we know that 40 Yobel transpired from the time Adam and Towrah were expelled from the Garden of Eden in 3968 BCE until Abraham and Yitzhak affirmed the covenant on Mount Moriah in 1968 BCE, year 2000 year, providing a dress rehearsal of Passover. Then exactly 40 Yobel later, in 33 CE, year 4000 year, on this very same mountain, Yahowah, Daud, and the Ruach Kodesh fulfilled the promises of Passover, unyeasted bread and firstborn children. Father and Son resolved the consequence of religion, which is death, redeemed the penalty of its corruption, which is separation from God, and then tangibly demonstrated by Quran, which speaks of us being born anew spiritually as God's children. 238 40 Yobel from 33 CE is 2033, which will be year 6000 year. At this time, and after fulfilling the Mikra of Towrah by harvesting the covenant family, Yahowah will return with Daud to reconcile his relationship with Yahweh and Yisrael on Yom Kippurim. 5 days later, God will commence the 1,000-year-long celebration of Sukkah, where he will camp out with us on earth, now returned to the conditions experienced in Eden. What's more, this passage on the Torah, its covenant and Mikra, confirms that these things have nothing to do with the Jewish religion but, instead, lead to the familial relationship Yahweh established with Abraham and affirmed through Moses. There is but one path to God, one set of instructions, and one family.